see us, Celeste?
I can hear and see you.
So nice when it works, right?
Cool.
Great. Yeah, we'll give it just a couple if that's all right with folks. Big J and Sue are supposed to be there.
And Celeste, you did receive the budget copy I sent you?
I did, thank you.
Fantastic.
Speaking of Catherine, that's fair, that's for Kayla right on the front. Yeah, that's Catherine.
Not an accident, I just said.
Oh my gosh.
I did when I first bought it too. I was like, wow, we're going to be good.
No, those girls did a fantastic job at the chalk art contest.
Oh, that's where that's from.
Here comes Sue Cottage.
I also wanted to tell you that things must be looking up, Scott.
What's that?
You have a flag up at the SRC.
Yeah, our crew has been working on that for a little while. Yeah.
And
got that flag.
and you have lights in the parking lot that turn off at night. Yeah. So when the sun goes down, they'll go off or on.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But it is appreciated.
Hi, Faye. Hey, you're in the right spot?
Yeah.
They just don't know how to turn it off.
It'll be like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm waking up with a
Right, you're next to
hey, what's that
Catherine.
red?
She'll be in line.
She is going to be late, so you're kind of on your own for a while.
Maybe I need
So
a
you're, you can go sit by Mike if you want, though. That seat's open because Celeste is on Zoom.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
I'll come over here, but Paul. And between Tracy and Paul are new people. I love the fact that the girders, they were blocking the road to move the girders.
Oh.
So I sat there and watched that.
That's funny.
How fun was that?
Oh.
How are you?
Well, I'm fine.
Okay, you feel like that, okay, that's fine, I'm just wondering if, okay.
Let's get back.
I know, right? I like it, great.
Contemplating going back to work.
Oh, well, that's
I'm
recording in progress.
Getting used to this stay at home.
Okay, folks, we are rolling. Welcome. It's not on your agenda, but we're going to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, which is in that corner of the room. Sorry, I forgot to put it on the agenda, but it's a normal part of our public meetings. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. This will be staff's meeting to run for about a couple minutes, and then we'll turn it over to whoever you select as the budget chairperson. But the first item of significance is just to welcome you all and let you know that we're really thankful for you serving on the budget committee. I think everybody here has done this before, at least a year or more, except for Paul, so we will especially welcome you and thank you for being willing to serve. And we're without Celeste in person. She is on Zoom. Can't see her, but she's up on the small screen. And then Catherine, who's our board chair, will be here in a little while. We'd love it if you guys could go around the room and just share an introduction, your name, and if you want to state something about why you want to serve on the budget committee or what you're looking forward to or your favorite flavor of ice cream. Whatever you'd like to share, that'd be great. We'll go to Jay.
Sure, yeah, Jay Sterling. My favorite flavor of ice cream is cookie dough. I'm on I wanted to be involved in the budget committee because I live in the district, I guess like everybody of course, and I use swimming lessons there. I swim there a few times a week, should be more. Trying to train for a triathlon. But, yeah, so I figured, I'm a stakeholder, figured I'd help out.
Tracy McDonald, orange sherbet and vanilla mixed together. So, I've been here about 42 years now, so, and a good third of that time I've either worked for the district or been involved with programs in the district, so I really would like to continue to strive the success of this particular district because of what it does for people affected in the community.
You want me to talk? I'm not on,
What if we say no, will it help?
Kyle, come out and. I figured it was just the budget people.
You're a budget.
Okay, let's see.
You're
I was
all
like-
budget people right
I
now.
was trying to figure
You're not
out.
a board
I
member right
think-
now.
Let's see. My name is Sue Coddington. I've lived here 27 years. After my work as, in hospital nursing for, almost 40 years, I was injured on the job, and as I recovered after surgeries, et cetera, I felt like I needed to serve my community. And so I was sitting in my recliner with my legs bandaged and up in the air saying, what can I do? And so I looked, and now I've gotten myself so very busy, very grateful, and part of that is that I walked into like dabbling my toe in politics here with Sunset Empire Park and Rec, because the place I was put after my physical therapy was the pool. And so then one of the employees asked me a question, hey, would you write a letter? Okay. And that letter led to Skylar saying, why don't you run for the board? And I'm like, what's that mean? So anyway, here I am. I've been here 27 years. I'm up for re-election in the next cycle. Trying to figure out what that means. Favorite color ice cream? Or favorite flavor?
Flavor.
Although, favorite color ice cream is
I don't know. I mean, I don't, let's see, probably some form of peppermint,
That's good too.
you know,
Yeah,
so
that's good.
anyway. And I'm just so grateful to introduce the gentleman to my left who I recruited.
Thank you. I guess my favorite would be chocolate, almost any variety. And the reason I'm here, volunteered from the board, was that we moved here about, I was going to say 27 months, but it's been about 32 months from Fairbanks, Alaska. Our kids have been urging us to move closer to them. Not that one was at Anchorage, one was in Portland, and one was in Boston, so.
Triangulation.
Yes, well, we're at one end of the triangle, but for those of you familiar with Alaska, these are all Alaska Airlines cities. And so that makes it much easier since I did an enormous amount of travel in my previous job. And, but coming here, I think I feel a real positive urge to really invest myself in the community. And I've really enjoyed the pool. Introduced that to me and doing an exercise class with Bonnie. And just wanted to get more invested in the community and see what they were doing. I did a lot of financial stuff through my career, some good, some bad, or some good, some very, very hard.
I'm Kyle Gorman. I'm on the board of Sunset Empire as well as the Budget Committee. I spent 38 years in emergency services and I'm retired now. And once a person spends their whole life engaged with the community, you feel like you can't really stop when you retire. So I'm still there.
I'm Jamie Bingham. I don't know that I could pick a favorite ice cream, but anything with chocolate. You did
My
it,
favorite ice cream.
Go ahead.
Oh,
You need to
and
finish
you know
that
what?
up, yeah.
First, I prefer gelato over ice cream. But.
I can respect that.
If it's ice cream, my favorite flavor is cantaloupe.
Really?
Oh, how
Yeah,
interesting
every-
is that? Where do you find that flavor?
Corvallis. A local ice cream shop that you bring in the fruit
I
and
will
they make
go
ice cream out
check
of it.
that out when I'm down there.
I had cantaloupe in the car and they made ice cream out of it.
That sounds awesome.
If you had like the 100 most popular ice cream flavors, cantaloupe would be like 750. That is
rare, but it's good.
Have you had it?
No, but now I want some.
See, we're all gonna venture to Corvallis now, on
Yeah.
a road trip.
Or maybe go down to Sea Star and
Yeah, I
have
was
make
gonna
some
say,
gelato out of
there,
it.
he'll be up for the challenge. He'll try to make it for you. I am here because I think recreation is such a positive thing that any community can have, so happy just to, all of my family, we all use the facilities and stuff. I go to the yoga studio, and my boys all swim, so, I love recreation, so, I'm here.
Me too.
Yeah.
Favorite doesn't. My favorite ice cream is vanilla inside root beer. So.
Oh, good flow, yeah.
Inside root beer. Super float.
That's pretty awesome.
Big jug root beer.
We'll have to go out for ice
Thing
cream.
of ice cream.
I have the answer to that.
Okay. And I like I like outdoor sports. I mean, I'm really involved in parks, trails, bicycling, anything that's recreational. And next to making money, the favorite thing is to be outside.
I'm Michael Hinton. I've been on the board for a number of years, and I guess as far as ice cream is concerned, my favorite ice cream is hand-cranked homemade ice cream. You can make it whatever flavor you want, but as far as root beer goes, we should talk, because I have a gallon of A&W root beer syrup, the last gallon from my parents' restaurant here at the A&W.
Wow.
You have the last
And we should talk.
Buddha.
We can make some hand-cranked stuff, but recreation has been important my whole life. I was an employee of the Park District in 1999, I think. I started, and I was teaching ceramics called Young at Art over here in the baptism pottery room, and we were doing things. Tracy, I think, too, we were monitoring the gym at the middle school at night. You know, Mary Blake was the
Basketball.
director, and Molly King was the recreation manager. And, you know, we've been around the block with childcare, and you know the importance of serving on the board and on this budget committee is the idea of the stewardship and enabling this institution to survive and be sustained, you know, for the next millennium at least. So I think it's a really important asset for the community, for young and old alike.
We'll go to Celeste and then maybe do staff after that. Celeste, do you want to share?
Sure, so Kyle, I thought you said you liked candle ice cream. And I'm like, candle, what flavor is that?
Okay, well, that's very boring for you.
So I'm gonna co-sign on to peppermint. Let's see, my name is Celeste Bodnar. I am a board member and long time, I grew up in Seaside, moved away for a little bit, and then my husband and I moved back in 2000. And so consider myself a long-time local. And I just really love what the Park and Rec District does to keep our community focused on wellness. I think it's super important for people of all ages, and I think, and I get to work with an awesome board of directors and executive director and staff.
Thanks, Celeste. Darren?
Hi, Darren Gooch, Director of Development for Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District. I've been with the Park District since the fall of 2003, so it'll be 21 years this year, which is pretty amazing. It's been a wonderful experience. I've gotten to experience things from the other side, from most of you, come in and recreate and serve on the board. I've gotten to be the person helping develop programs. I taught, like Mike, I taught pottery classes for almost 10 years here in the Bob Chisholm Community Center. Been amazing to see the number of people that come through and recreate every single day. So, and I couldn't be happier being part of this organization. So, favorite ice cream? Chocolate peanut butter Tillamook. The only way to go. So, yeah. Sorry.
So we had this at a management meeting too.
Yeah.
Is you me in there? I'm Chris McAllister. I'm the finance manager. I've been in this role since 2022. Before that, though, I actually was here in high school. So from 2002 to 2012, went away to college, did a couple more things, and then came right back in. And I've done everything from recreation to lifeguarding to pretty much anything that I got thrown in before, and somehow made my way into finance after getting my master's and settling down.
Chris was a junior counsel when I started.
Yeah, that was in middle school. So I've literally been here since I was in middle school. They just didn't let me leave, except for a couple of years.
The way you tell the story, it's like you were lifeguarding one day and then you were finance manager the next day. It was like a nice transition in education.
There was a little bit of that, though. I mean, I had to hop in and guard a couple times right after I got my position.
You just took like the longest serving lifeguard and
great.
gave them the keys.
Like, I don't know, I just put numbers.
I have a
Tell them
finance
about
degree, he has a
keys.
master's
Chris,
degree, he's
that
quite
might
smart.
help.
And you can swing it, so. I'm Skylar, the executive director. I think I know just about everybody. I'm coming up on my 9-year anniversary working for the district, which is great. Love working here and feel fortunate to have great staff and budget committee and board. And I think we have a solid budget to present to you tonight. My favorite is almost anything Tillamook. My brother works for the Tillamook Creamery Association, so I'm pretty biased about Tillamook ice cream, but last night, actually, we were celebrating a little, I wouldn't call it a win in our house, it was more of a loss, but we were celebrating some ice cream, so we had chocolate brownie, like the new one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tillamook. But yeah. It was good, but I also like cookies and cream. It's pretty solid. Isaiah, we didn't forget about you.
Hello. You don't
have to go on camera, but you got to get closer for the mic.
Okay. I'm Isaiah Collins. I'm the network, I guess, IT coordinator now. I've been here since 2018, but I've been in this IT position since 2022. Something like that. But I started out as a lifeguard, just like Chris did, and I've been
again.
He turned out that was a year.
Right qualified.
That's the
president's is amazing.
And I've used the pool. I mean, I grew up here. I was born here, so I've lived here for a whole 24 years. And I've used the pool for a lot of things, including some tournament and other recreation activities. So, yeah.
Did you tell us your ice cream?
Oh, my favorite ice cream, it has to be Tillamook Rocky Road.
Good choice.
Well, and it's fun, because aren't both your daughters now
Yeah.
at swim lessons?
Or almost, I mean, they're gonna be swimming, but yeah, they're literally like, what, 2 months apart?
Yeah, they're about 2 months
Yeah.
apart.
And then actually his daughter was born on my birthday, so it's even better.
Oh, that's cool.
Always gotta connect
So
with
see, the
somehow.
next generation moves forward.
lifeguard, though.
They're gonna have to lifeguard first.
You know where the fast track is.
You guys are working on
Yeah, I got her a little accounting desk thing. They used those. I was amazed, so my wife bought it.
A lot of jokes I want to make, Chris, but they're probably not.
Oh, it's okay, I tell her that she's doing all the work. If you see typos, it wasn't me.
All right, well, again, appreciate you folks being here and taking time out of your schedules. I think that's a nice way to start our meeting. I was looking at the minutes from last year's meeting, and this first meeting that we had, it was about 2.5 hours. And then we did have another meeting that was less than 1 hour. So just for your information on timing of the evening, it's going to be up to you all to decide how long you want the meeting to be, how long you want deliberation and discussion to be. It doesn't look like there's public comment here right now, but there could be at that point in the meeting. We also will share, and I shared this in the email, that you are legally allowed to pass or approve the budget tonight if you so choose. It's not typical in our history, but in lots of other government agencies, a one-night session is common, or at least allowable. So, is there any questions about the process or what's going to happen? Okay, the next part of our meeting is for you all to elect a chair and a secretary. You can also elect a vice chair. That's not required. The chairperson and secretary are legal requirements. And the way that you do that is someone would either nominate themselves or someone else on the budget committee to serve in one of those roles. And then you would have the opportunity to discuss, deliberate, debate if necessary, and then move forward with kind of a slate of officers for efficiency. That would make it easier for minutes for us. So we'll turn that time over to you, and we will pull back from speaking.
Can you remind me what the chair of the meeting and the secretary of the meeting are supposed to do?
Yes, the chair is responsible for basically being the administrator of the meetings. If we have another meeting, then they would be the administrator of that. If there is questions or concerns, we typically ask the chair to be the mouthpiece of the budget committee and bring those questions or concerns to the budget, to the staff that are working to resolve some of those questions or issues. So say there was a line that the budget committee felt was not appropriate, or they wanted to adjust and maybe staff felt differently, the budget committee chairperson would be kind of responsible for serving as the mouthpiece for the voice of the budget committee. There's not a significant amount of other responsibilities as far as I can tell. Normally it's those two duties, run the meetings, and then kind of help with concerns or questions. And then the secretary, staff will take the minutes. The secretary could also take minutes, and but it's just something that we've always done to remove a burden from a volunteer. Taking minutes can be kind of taxing and time consuming. So very light duties for the secretary. Okay.
I'd like to nominate Jay.
Secretary?
No. I believe you could handle the chairman's role as explained.
Okay, you have a nomination for chair.
I'll second.
Okay, second. Any further discussion?
You will close the nomination.
Okay. You guys, you can do the other positions as kind of a slate and do one vote on it, or you can vote on individual positions. The good news is, since you nominated a chair, you can vote on this position, and then we can turn the meeting over to the chair that you selected. Does that sound all right?
That sounds good.
All right, so you have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of selecting Jay Sterling as chairperson of the budget committee, say aye.
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 And any opposed? It appears that the voting is unanimous. Jay, the gavel's right next to you, so feel free to take the meeting from here.
All right, are there any nominations for secretary?
I nominate Sue Coddington.
Oh, no, isn't this supposed to be someone on the budget committee?
You're on the
You're on the budget committee.
Money side, oh my God.
All right, we have a second for Sue.
I move to close nominations.
Oh, Lord almighty. Wait. What does this mean? Because, first of all, you realize where I am when I'm not here. No. I mean, seriously, my sister is on hospice. I was in Portland twice yesterday. So understand, I am here today, but I may not be here in May.
So the, recording of the minutes and things is pretty much handled by the staff.
It's the same way as
So
this thing.
basically, all you need to do is, you'll be able to sign it when we get all done.
Read the minutes.
Please understand, she is not doing well. And so, like I said, and I don't mean to, air the laundry, but we both, like Skylar has known that if you don't see me, and people in the pool have known, if you don't see me, it's because I'm in Vancouver.
Will you have internet access?
No, she's got a lousy, people cannot get a phone call through to me.
Really?
She's at home in a Philida area of Vancouver, and you cannot reach me. So, how fun would this be? So my dog is boarded. I am literally here today and gone tomorrow. So.
All right, I nominate Jamie.
All I have to do is sign, you said?
Yes,
Review
that's
the
the signature.
All right, we got a second
You
for Bill.
have to pass the gavel before you can nominate.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
What?
The chair can't make the nomination. It's true.
Yeah, and so I will.
All right,
I'll nominate Jamie.
All right, we have multiple nominations for Jamie, including a second. All in favor of Jamie as secretary for...
Are you okay with that?
Do I need to take minutes or no?
No.
Okay.
You can if you want, but we'll.
I have to bring donuts, I don't have to bring donuts.
All right, all those in favor of Jamie, say aye.
Aye.
Here's
Yay.
unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. So, let's see. Looks like we will now receive the budget message. From this side of the room.
Right, so, unless the secretary wants to do it.
I still want Jamie to speak to me after this meeting, so no.
Okay, so, as is, our custom, sorry, I didn't hook up the little remote, but maybe I'll just sit over here. The operator. Yeah, we just have a little presentation. Our format is going to be a little different this year. In the past, we've had a very lengthy budget message of probably like 15-ish pages, 20, who's counting? And,
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Jamie?
No,
Well,
sorry.
Darren didn't like, no, I'm just kidding. We wanted to change it up. I think change is a good thing for organizations, and so we have a shorter text version of the budget message that's printed, and then some graphs and information distributed in a visual way that will hopefully be digestible. And again, we can meet many times. We just have to have the budget adopted by the end of June, so we have 2 months. Obviously, we want to be conscientious of time and all those things, so we try to be efficient. But the plan is to go through the budget message, share some of the information on the graphs that you also have in your document, and then we'll go through the budget kind of line by line, and we have the opportunity to sort of look at it on screen, but also, well, I don't actually know if we'll pull it up on screen, but you have it in front of you, and then we'll be able to make adjustments and answer questions that you have as we work through the budget. Yes?
So on page 12, can you give me updates on the term expiration for Kyle and Catherine, because it's not 2023?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I haven't looked at that page, but yeah, we'll adjust that if need be. And this is another thing that this is good for. We can make adjustments in the budget document, and it's not final until it's approved and adopted by you and then by the board. So plenty of time for adjustments. Here's the kind of the introduction that I was referring to. It's much shorter. I don't know how it looks on your document. I think it's about 2 pages. But just kind of highlighting a little bit of the work of what the Budget Committee is tasked to do and what our process will be. Sorry, rather than cringe my neck.
Page 17.
Almost there. So yeah, we have our 5 board of directors that are mentioned. We also note the full-time staff of the district. Right now we have 10 full-time staff and in between 65 and 70 employees. I don't know if we have, it fluctuates. It can go up and down 5 or 10 people in a week or two, just with a lot of the transitions that we have occurring with some of our part-time roles. Really happy that over the past couple of years we've been able to pivot and have all of our meetings really accessible online. So they're on our district YouTube page as well. This Budget Committee meeting will be available there. We don't get a lot of hits, but we typically have around 20 to 30 views for each of our board meetings, so I expect similar kind of thing, and then we also record these meetings via Zoom technology. Turn the next page, you'll see a little bit of a budget overview and some themes that I think we really want to call out. It would be wonderful to present this budget to you, bless you, Mike, and say, hey, we have $2 or $1 million of carry forward money, but that's not the financial position of the district this year, and I think it's okay. There's really good reasons for that. We're, I think, in a really solid financial position, but we're focusing this next year on maintaining what we have and not necessarily on taking on significant projects or growing as we have in the past necessarily. I think that can be attributed to a couple of things. First, basically since 2020, when we're in the midst of COVID, we've invested a lot of our district's resources into retaining staff. We've done that through a few really key ways, through really healthy cost of living adjustments, offering merit increases for staff that were deserving of those, creating some incentive programs to keep staff and to keep them engaged and happy. And I think by and large, we've been able to retain a significant amount of our workforce and keep programs rolling and even expand programs through the pandemic, which was a really challenging time for all of us, but certainly for Park and Rec agencies as we adjusted to rules and different changes in how we delivered our programs and services to our residents and guests. Second, the other thing that's, I think, significantly impacting the budget and the resources that we have available, and it's not a secret, but 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I guess, we purchased the old Broadway Middle School property. Now we call it the Sunset Recreation Center, and while we've been able to expand some really amazing programs there, especially the youth programs, we've leased the space. We're offering a lot more recreation and indoor recreation programs than we were ever able to before. That is something that's impacting the budget, because when we purchased the building, we didn't necessarily increase our tax revenue, and we haven't been able to maximize program revenue in the way that we will eventually for that building. So that's kind of stretched the resources that we have a little bit. We've also engaged board and staff working together to do a lot of planning and preparation for that part of our district. When we get to open the building, what will we offer there? We're engaged in a strategic plan right now that's really been a fun process, but taken some resources, both people resources and financial resources. We have gone through a change of use process with the city of Seaside to get the building permissible to be opened and utilized for recreation. So these things have been, I think, really important for us to do, and kind of milestones that we knew that we would need to hit after we purchased the building, but there are things that definitely have impacted our what we were able to take on this year in terms of projects and other things. A couple other things that I wanted to mention. Fourth paragraph on this budget overview, page 18. There's changes in, I think, the economy that are something for us to be paying attention to. Overall, over the last 5-ish years, certainly recently, as you all know, our utility costs have gone up significantly. So for electricity, natural gas, water, all those types of things are far more expensive than they used to be. Additionally, our insurance premiums have gone up substantially. We're looking at a 7% increase this year, and we're around the same increase last year.
So is that for health insurance, or is it for liability insurance?
I think it's both.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's both, I think it's 7% for the health insurance, 15 to 20% for liability insurance.
Wow.
That's a forecast we just saw. Wednesday, email.
Yeah.
I said, I'm gonna print that out.
Yeah. So I think it's, I don't have a chart, but I will just share the tax revenue of the district, and there's a chart, I guess, in a couple of pages, but the tax revenue of the district stays fairly consistent. There's a little bit of growth with increased assessed home value, and also new construction that occurs within district boundaries, but it stays pretty stable. There's a modest increase every year, whereas our expenses and personnel, utilities, and some of the other stuff, not even counting the SRC, have gone, at a much more accelerated rate. So that's why you see kind of the financial position that we're in, and you'll see in a minute what I'm kind of referring to. But overall, I think the budget is really strong. There's not, from our position, we went through several revisions. Darren and Chris worked really hard working with the individual program staff and also with me to what I'd say is trim anything unnecessary out of the budget so that we can have a really strong financial position to present to you. And we're really actually proud, I think, of the work and collaboration that has occurred. And I tip my cap to these two, but also to our whole staff for helping us with this. Yeah, I think that's about it for this part, unless you guys think there's something to press on for this.
So I guess, is it fair to say, the district is basically operating at like a break-even kind of?
Essentially, so in the last few years, we've been able to carry forward a really healthy balance, ending fund balance, basically. We get the majority of our tax revenue in November, and so the goal has been over the last decade or so to make sure that we can make the revenue that we have from the end of the fiscal year to November last, relying on what we have saved and then also on program revenue. And there's a number that we know that we need to get to that point, and usually we are well above that number, just making sure that we're comfortable, and that's something that we've done intentionally. This year the number is a little bit smaller, and I think that's made us all kind of realize the financial position and what some of the investment that we've made in staffing and in the SRC has created a little bit more tighter situation. But I think, again, we're really stable in trying to manage our resources really wise and not get to the point where there's cause for concern. I think that would be much further down the road, but we want to prevent some of those feelings and some of the other challenges that other special districts or local governments might have. Any other questions? Okay. This is the beginning of kind of some visual graphics, and Darren, you can help me with this, or we can talk through this all together. I don't know if we want to, but I think this is an easy way of learning. You see at the top that bubbles shares that we have received tax revenue increases of a little less than 4% over the last few years. But you also see the expenses that we've incurred as a result of some of the stuff that we've talked about. So that ratio is off. And, there's really not much we can do about adjusting our expenses just because those are costs associated with doing business, with having staff, with having programs, with purchasing the recreation center and working really hard to open it and get it rolling. You'll see the total expenses and total revenues for the last completed year. This is 2022, 2023, so not the current year that we're in. And then some of the general expenses that we see, by and large, our biggest expenses in personnel. So that's just something that I think you're all probably familiar with, but when you have 60 employees and you're open as much as we are, and you're offering the type of diverse programming that we are offering, we have a lot of staffing costs, and staffing is a big, it's the biggest thing that we all face. Every day, all of us that manage staff, and myself, my position, there's almost always a staffing thing to work through, or new hires to pursue, or a restructure to think about. So it's something that definitely motivates us and keeps us on our toes every day.
Skylar, if you could go back to the previous slide, so it looks like at the end of last year, we did have $1 million carryover.
Yeah.
We did.
Right?
Yep.
And you're saying that's not gonna happen
I'm saying,
regularly in the future?
yeah, you'll see on here a number that's much smaller than $1 million, but that number will be adjusted. So that's with, basically the projected carryover, but at the end of this fiscal year, whatever we have that we didn't use in the current budget will roll forward.
Of course.
So the number that you'll see on paper plus the number that we don't use in this current year will be, it won't be that at that $1 million, but it'll be a healthy enough balance to get us to November. Yeah.
And Skylar, can I just ask the small capital project that's in there?
Yep.
Could you name that one?
22, 23.
No, it's okay.
Not right off the top of my head.
Sorry, Tracy, but let's make a note and we can get back, because I'm sure we have it jotted down in that budget, Tracy. Sorry.
Okay, fine, get away.
So we have the general fund, which is where the majority of our program and staffing costs lay, but we also have a couple of special funds. So there's the Broadway Field Fund, the Sunset Recreation Center Fund, and then the Capital Improvement Fund. And the board will remember that there was a couple of changes in some of those funds this year, but this budget, I think those were all still functioning as separate funds. So again, this is not this current year, or not the budget that we're proposing, but just trying to give you a little bit of a financial picture for previous budget cycles.
Yeah, kind of a snapshot of our last fully complete audited year.
And here we have some information on the current year. So this is as of the beginning of this month, but you'll see that bubble shares, I think who asked about the carry forward? Kyle did. So yeah, there's the number, Kyle, and the expenses that were incurred up to that point. You also see the revenue and expenses line as of this year. So we're doing okay, but just like, yeah, there's some things that we need to be really aware and mindful of and intentional about how we allocate our resources.
So, are there big ticket items yet to be paid for in this fiscal year?
There is a couple. Yeah, there's also one there's also one large revenue item that we're waiting to close on and finalize. So there's a couple things still sort of hanging out there that are gonna impact the budget significantly. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we're trying to close on selling a piece of the Sunset Recreation Center property to the city of Seaside, the Visitors Bureau property, and so we've partitioned off about 1.5 acres of that property for them to have where the Visitors Bureau and bathrooms sit. So we're almost complete with that transaction. And then we also have a large project going on at the Sunset Recreation Center to update the fire alarm system. We budgeted for that. It's been in the planning stages. We just haven't, the work isn't completed yet, and we haven't paid for it yet. And then we also have a portion of Broadway Field has been returfed, and we're responsible for paying 1/3 of those costs. So those are 3 of the bigger ticket items. I don't know if hopefully there's not more, but I think we'll all feel a little bit better. Normally, we'd like to have those things handled before we get to this point in the fiscal year, and I know this is Chris.
Yeah, not like.
Shouldn't have this done like
I didn't like to have to forecast around that.
Yeah, so it makes kind of budgeting challenging when you have those larger things kind of hanging out there. Again, you'll see the financial picture for this year. Broadway Field Fund. It looks a little different this year because we've had a lot of kind of strange things associated with Broadway Field, with returfing field projects. I don't know exactly what else is in this budget, but Broadway Field has kind of been a heavy source of attention for district staff and for school district and the city, our partners in that agreement for basically this whole fiscal year. Lots of stuff going on.
Oh, can I answer the?
Yeah.
Do you think it's important to the budget committee for them to understand the agreement we have with the school district and managing the fields and the costs that they're actually responsible for and the money?
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're actually providing some of the money that we should have to spend.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So there's a couple of layers there that are, just for some context, we had been in a three-way partnership with the city and school district on Broadway Field. A few months ago, we signed on a document that changed that structure, so it's just a partnership between the school district and us. The city is no longer involved in the intergovernmental agreement. We also changed the financial structure of that agreement, so we are partners, but the school district contributes an annual sum to SEPRD for our maintenance of that field, and then we have a condition of that agreement is basically once we go above a certain threshold of our expenses incurred, then the school district reimburses us for those expenses. So I would say it's a much more favorable financial agreement partnership than it had been previously. We essentially at least tripled, probably more like quadrupled or whatever is after that, our financial contribution that we get from the school district for managing the field. Let's see here, some other parts of that though that I think Mike kind of referred to is we've utilized our resources, our architect, our project managers, our owner's representative that we use for other projects to make sure that the planning process for the softball field was done in accordance with our standards and what we wanted for that project to look like. So because of that, there's higher expenses on like Broadway Field or on some of our contract services. We've been reimbursed for those expenses. The school district has been really generous with that partnership, but that money still comes out of our budget and then goes back in. So we have to account for it on the budget, on paper.
I just feel that knowing the history of that property and knowing the tri-partnership, I feel that we're better, the district is in better shape because of the elimination of the city thing.
Yeah.
Everybody that has not been here in the previous times, if you look back at 1935 or 36, when the city owned a forest, and in that area, it was destined to be open space and that kind of thing, and it's basically a city park. And then in the 50s, the school district came along and said, we need some of this to put a school building up, and so, okay, they gave them some of that situation. And then when Park and Rec, its history was they had the space where the pool sat. That was all the property value or lotting that ever came about it. So we've expanded the ownership for the district, and included, and the school was not always a good partner in that regard, and so we educated them to the point where they are a participatory partner, and the city has kind of stepped back. So,
is the new deal with the school district like perpetual, or is it 5-year deal?
It's for 15 years with another 15-year option.
Yeah, our option or like a mutual option?
Mutual option. But there's I think there's like a 90 or 60 day notice that we can exit the agreement. I think there's reason. It's certainly been like a headache and a lot of meetings and planning and financial implications, but the hope is that when the softball field, part of the field is complete, we're gonna have a really beautiful recreation complex with a functional batting cage facility, a full Title IX compliant softball field, a baseball field that works really well, and then the capacity for football and soccer still. So I think it's going to be really wonderful once it's completed, and there's reason for us to maintain the strong partnership with the school district, even though it's been challenging.
Had not the Park District purchased the middle school, onto which the softball field is encroaching, if we had not given the land to the school district to expand the softball field, it wouldn't have not been possible. So actually, we are sharing our real estate with the school district and the city to make this all possible. So it's really, I see the SRC as being a huge blessing in more than one way.
We're talking about this in the context of the budget, but in the big picture, we are, I think, the district is providing much more access to recreation than we were ever able to do in the past. I mean, not just with the fields, but the SRC has and will be even more important to the community. And I think, you know, we look at it in terms of numbers with dollar signs in front of them, but really the measure of the benefit to the community is not in dollars that are in our budget out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, we want to also just kind of share, it sounds like we have a room full of really informed and educated and pool and recreation patrons and users, so that's awesome, but I think it's really important for us to sort of share some program participation statistics with you, so you'll see some, what I think are really impressive figures about our aquatic use, general admission sales, our memberships, and then swim lessons and swim teams. Those are big revenue generating programs for us, and also really vital programs to keep kids active and help the youth of our community learn to swim, which is a life-saving skill. So impressive, I think, numbers there to demonstrate kind of the strength of our aquatic programs. And we've said this before, and it's been a previous budget message, but the district was conceived to build the pool, and the pool has always been and will continue to always be kind of the heart and soul of the district. And we've really worked hard to expand recreation services, like Kyle was saying, with the SRC especially, and we are doing way more than just being a pool with aquatic programs, but the pool is still really vital to our community and to our district, and it takes a lot of resources to have a pool that especially functions the way that ours does, but we know that it's really essential for our community.
So, well, I'm really interested in participation from outside the geopolitical boundaries of the district.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the insurance benefit piece is, you know, half and half or whatever, but
yeah,
we're not getting as much participation in some of the other things, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is probably the first time that, when I saw this, that I had looked at some of these figures in a while, but I think that's noteworthy, especially for, well, for everybody, but for the board especially, as they're kind of considering a fee review in the next month or two that will kind of maybe adjust some of these figures potentially. One thing that I will note on private lessons, you'll see it's a very popular program. We have a private swim instructor, Carolyn, who does a really good job, but she attracts folks from Portland and further. She used to live in Lake Oswego, and she had a very active clientele there, and now she has attracted a lot of those folks to make the drive out here for private swim lessons, because she's such an upper echelon coach with a lot of really great experience in her field.
So is she an employee of the district, or is she?
She is, yeah.
So So if a kid comes in for swim lessons and they're from outside the district, how much do they pay?
Wait, are you for Coach Carolyn?
No,
or
for
a regular
regular
swim
garden
lessons?
variety swim lessons.
How much is it, like, it's like $50 for a resident?
I thought it was 50 for a resident and maybe 60 for a non-resident right now, Kyle. We can get you those numbers.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
trying to process it.
Uh,
Not just for swimming, but those differences, can you note those in other
Yeah.
activities as
Yeah.
well? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. You'll see some of the recreation programs that we are working to expand. This year, I guess it was, Zoe's been in her role for about a year and a half, I think.
About a year.
A year.
Mhm.
So we have a recreation and special events coordinator, who her name's Zoe. It's actually her birthday today, otherwise we would have required her to be here. Just kidding. But she's done a really great job of helping us expand recreation services, and Justin, our director of recreation, or our director of programs, has also helped immensely. But we've started offering pickleball at the SRC, so through the end of March, you can see our monthly pickleball continues to be really popular and is even growing in popularity. And if you know we have one pickleballer, so I don't want to offend anybody, but pickleballers are the kind of people that you can never offer enough pickleball opportunities. They typically have unlimited time, and they want to play as much as you'll let them play. So.
Well, and I saw somebody in the water today, and I commented, well, that's because I can't play pickleball.
Yeah, we have the gym offline for some electrical work, and then we are
We're
really hearing about it. I thought you were going to say they were in the water playing pickleball.
I thought you were going to say that too,
Yeah.
because it's starting to, you can play other games, like, with circle one.
Well, she was
Now
just
they
one
play
person.
bubble. Huh?
And you'll also see some of our other recreation programs requiring registration and the participant count on those. And then also really proud of our Dryland and H2O fitness program. We have some really active and popular classes, and I know we have some class attendees here, but you can speak to what I hope is a high quality experience with trained and certified instructors and a really diverse array of recreation programs. Despite our dryland space is just not, it's not very big and it's not very modern, and that's one thing that we'll address in coming budgets with the SRC. Go through another area where we've expanded a lot and worked to serve our community, and it's been a priority of our board to serve youth of our community and to meet a really growing need for childcare in our community. So this year, this current budget represents the first year where we've had infant and toddler care. We also have 2 preschool classrooms, a really robust after-school program, summer camp and day off camps, and spring break camp, and then some other school-based programming. You'll see strong participation in all of those programs reflected here. We are looking for, like that green bubble shares, we have been and will continue to seek out grant funding for expansion of that infant toddler room. It's been full basically from the day we announced it. Because of licensing, we can only have 9 kids in that space, so that number, we wish it was bigger, but we don't have necessarily the resources to expand that service without some kind of startup funding to get what we need in place to expand.
Yeah, we have a very full waiting list for that program too, so.
Infant toddler care is really the biggest gap in childcare in our area, which there's a lot of gaps, but infant toddler care is certainly
The whole state.
Yeah.
Sorry, is it just as simple as like not having the money, or would it be getting the money and then finding the staff, or getting the money for building something? Like how many steps are there to increasing our capacity?
I think it's the first 2 of those would probably be the main barriers that we focus.
Money and staff.
Yeah, money and staff. We have been. Go ahead.
Sorry, some of it even goes back to the occupancy part too.
Yeah.
Where certain grants you're not able to get unless you're licensed. Can't be licensed until you get the full occupancy. So we've got to wait on those stages too. So that kind of throws a wrench in it. You had a couple that you
I
could.
do have a grant out right now, actually, hopefully you should hear back on it in about a month. When I put the budget together for the expansion of the infant toddler program, it was, needing about $12,000 worth of, equipment just to get the room outfitted, because you have to have the commercial style cribs, you've got to have the commercial style changing tables, you've got to have, certain equipment to get it all outfitted. If I remember right, when we first set the room up, you guys probably remember, the budget from a couple of years ago, it was pretty close to $20,000 to get that room set up in the first place. So, but to add the expanded equipment, the budget's about $12,000 on that. And then
And how many more kids will that serve?
that will double our capacity. We'll be able to have 8 infants and 10 toddlers.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Do you get enough revenue to offset the cost?
Not really. Yeah. It's not necessarily a real high margin because it's a higher ratio of staff to students.
And you subsidize with grants?
Grants where we can. Yeah.
We do, and it's heavily subsidized by the general fund of the district. Like, the board and staff have basically declared that we're willing to keep, participation fees lower than they maybe should be, or than they would be certainly at a private business, because we know this just like a glaring need for this in our community.
And then income-based, the people that have their toddlers or?
It's not, but we do have this, the robust scholarship program, and a lot of our youth programs participants take advantage of that scholarship program and get some tuition assistance through that.
Yeah, 83% of our scholarships right now go to youth programs.
Next page, you'll see the building that we're in. This is a building that's owned by the city of Seaside, but we have a agreement to manage the building, and actually we're updating that agreement. I don't know if when it'll become effective, but I know Darren's been working with the city on that. But this building is really continues to be an important hub for community meetings and for a gathering space for events. There is a really beautiful convention center, but this building serves, I think, a really important role in our community for offering space for folks. I mean, probably the hallmark of this building is the senior meal program, which is housed out of the kitchen and the main hall, and you'll see the data there that shows how popular that is. Yeah, there's little fluctuations here month to month, but last calendar year, or typically in the last few calendar years, we've served above or right near 20,000 meals for a 12-month cycle. So that's a lot of food that's going out to our community, and it's really a great program run by one staff person and then volunteers, and we have a great partnership with Northwest Senior Disability Services to offer this as a congregate site and also a Meals on Wheels site where meals are going out and being delivered 3 days a week.
So, the district fully pays for all the meals, or is that?
So yeah, this outside agency at Northwest Senior Disability Services, they pay for the meals and the staff person that the district employs to run the meal site.
Got it, yeah. So, we're just, the district is basically executing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris does an excellent job. And,
Don't worry, I'm not doing that part.
Well,
It's a different Chris. Yeah, different Chris.
You started out as a lifeguard. Just a comment for the budget committee. I mean, sometime over the next few weeks, stop in around 11:30 or so and have a senior meal and see the process and what Chris does to make those meals for the community. I mean, it's really remarkable. And the volunteers that are serving there, and the community members that, meet these.
And I'm prejudiced because I used to do that job. And Chris, he's just outstanding. So he really does a nice job.
It's something special.
I just had a question about you mentioned
Darren, you're working on redoing the deal with the city.
Mhm.
Is it, are we expecting to charge them more for managing the building, or what
Yes.
is it? Okay.
Yes. Interesting, just a quick side note. What we found is, when I went back and looked at the contract, because it was time to talk about renewal on that, they were using the consumer index for the prior December, to the, you know, it would have been, looking back at, December 2023. But the problem with doing that is determining a contract for the next 5 years off of that number.
Always put you a year behind.
Well, it could be really low that year, or it could be really high. So had we done this back in 2021, 2022, the city would have gotten hit with 7%, a 7% increase every year during that 5 years. So Spencer and I actually talked about it. We decided to go back the prior 5 years and do an average of those 5 years to determine what the increases were going to be for the next 5 years. So, and then I redrafted it and outlined what those would look like every year for the next 5. So,
Are we recovering enough now from the city to overcome our costs of managing the?
Pretty close. We're very, very close. With, you know, considering staffing and some of the materials and services, they actually pay for a lot of the maintenance, issues that occur in the building. We call public works staff in to come in and handle a lot of those things. We take care of a few of the minor maintenance issues.
Are there any other items that you're expecting to negotiate heavily, or is it just
It was really just that percentage of increase. Otherwise, the contract's really straightforward.
So if the furnace goes out?
Yeah,
the
city
pays for that, and then we manage the replacement.
Yeah.
Welcome, Catherine. You're sitting next to the Budget Committee Chairperson.
Budget Committee Chairperson, Catherine Starkville.
welcome?
Joy, balancing.
You know, at the beginning of the meeting, we all went around and introduced ourselves. I'm sure everybody knows you, but the one thing people might not know that we disclosed was our favorite flavor of ice cream. So if you want to share that with the group, the floor is yours.
Tillamook, specifically peanut butter chocolate.
Oh my gosh, is that 3 of you?
That's 3. That's.
Oh my gosh.
We'll have to chop that up.
Perfect. What's that?
So far, it's the most.
As it should be.
Yeah. All right.
What was
We're
yours?
on page 27.
I like cookie dough.
Okay, yeah, you and my daughter.
She has excellent taste.
Yeah, Catherine, we're on page 27. I think this is one of our last graphs, but we're just reviewing some of our current programs and participation. And so, yeah, this, like I shared, we have a wonderful recreation and special events coordinator, and she has done amazing work in increasing our event participation for our special events there. There are probably a few more special events than are on this graph, but these are kind of our big ones: Egg Hunt, Family Dance, Fall Fun Fest, a really popular Turkey Trot, and some other ones. And we did want to highlight that we have been able to successfully, I think, market and brand the Turkey Trot as a very non-resident friendly event. Lots of our hotels have a great habit of sending folks down to do the event with us, start their Thanksgiving in that way. The other thing that this person is responsible for, Zoe, is the farmer's market. So she's obviously engaged in full planning for summer 2024, but you'll see the farmer's market attendance. Yes, there's a few slower weeks, but those are when, you know, the weather in June and late September can be a touch bit iffier. And also we just don't have that high midweek visibility from visitors as we do in the summer. But you see there's some very busy weeks in July and August where the farmer's market is quite popular. And to be honest, that was another really compelling reason to consider the purchase of the Sunset Recreation Center, to maintain that really visible and valuable piece of property right on the highway, and to maintain that as our spot for the Seaside Farmers Market. We've had the market in a couple of other locations. If you've been with us, you may remember them, or if you sneezed, you probably forgot, because they were, the market looked a lot different. We would have maybe 30 to 40 total participants, like attendees. So our new location, the vendor participation that we have, the staff engagement has been really, really positive over the past few years.
John, what would it take to put on a pickleball tournament?
Yeah, we actually have done 2 of those. Yeah, we got, a couple of years ago, we got grants from the city. They have a tourism grant to offer shoulder programming or events, and so we applied for grants from the city, and we got grants to host a pickleball tournament, and I think that's something that we are that we'll revisit and do again. Our gyms right now in the winter months are very busy, and so we need to be a little more intentional and deliberate about maybe offsetting like a PBL weekend, or figuring out a weekend where we can do it and don't impact their programs. But between our local PBL offerings and then the tournaments, the gyms are quite occupied during those winter months.
Are most of your pickleballers probably people that could do a midweek type of a tournament?
It could be. I think the tourism grant that we got, kind of the focus was shoulder season, but also bring people here, put heads in beds. And so, yeah, we were trying to kind of attract to the Portland, Seattle area and get folks here. But we could, yeah, I think we could definitely do a local. I mean, there's enough people playing in there almost daily that we could do a local tournament.
Well, there's really a dearth of pickleball courts in the community.
No, don't you think? I mean, you know, you have to go up to the
Across the river?
Well, no, I think they do Thursday mornings at the military base. We're up Camp Rylea, and I think there's some open air courts in Deer Park.
And there's PNS, sorry. Yeah, Peter Pan, I think.
But enclosed indoor courts, that's a commodity. That's
Well,
valuable.
the city was talking about eventually looking at Cartwright Park for developing some pickleball courts. But the expense to upgrade the bathrooms was so intense that they kind of backed off.
Over at Cartwright?
Yeah.
Not as much
Yeah.
as San Francisco
Well, and
or
that's
Portland
the
paid.
other thing. There were people that like,
Portland paid $1 million for it.
But it wasn't that was 4 or 5 years ago
Yeah.
that they talked about that.
But it would be nice to be known for something. Well, but you got the beach, the Seaside is known for beach volleyball, and Hood to Coast is known for Hood to Coast, but it'd be nice if we were known as a regional.
I think there's some
pickleball, and I don't
regional
play
familiarity with the PBL tournaments. Like when I go to places, and I know not everybody plays basketball. It's probably a bigger part of my life than I wish it was sometimes, but it's that's pretty common, I think, and gathered some notoriety. I feel, and I mean, I might probably not the only one that feels like this. I think we've done a really good job of offering a lot of pickleball opportunities, and it's going to be a big part of our programming moving forward because we know it's attractive to a lot of our population that lives here.
And it improves the health of the team.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why we've made some of the investment we've made in striping the courts and providing that time, and now we have a paid staff person in there supervising, making sure none of the pickleballers get too rowdy with each other.
They are a question.
We're gonna make some of those same investments in the smaller gym at the SRC and have even more, I think, opportunities moving forward. But we have to, you know, we're trying to balance the growth of the programs and making sure that we maintain some of those spaces for our youth programs kiddos to run around in and after school program kids to be active in. So it's kind of a constant balance, and I feel like we probably aren't batting 1,000, but we're doing pretty good.
We're getting busy over at Providence House.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I don't play.
Okay, that was the budget message, Mr. Chairperson.
Hey,
so we've been going like, what, an hour and 15 minutes? Do folks, should we take like a 5-minute break? Does anybody need to stretch their legs, use the bathroom, so on and so forth? All right, 6:30, we'll be back at 6:35.
I think everybody's familiar with the building, but restrooms are down this way. I don't know if Jay's in here.
Drinking
But last year you were virtual.
I know.
We did. I think,
Yeah.
the review of the partnership budget.
That is correct. But,
Is that where we just start on page 30 and March?
Yes.
And we have the option of, making some adjustments kind of on the fly, or, working through some of that. There's also a couple columns on the right for you guys to fill in things, take notes if you'd like. I don't know if one of you wants to lead, or you want me to steer this horse some more.
Well, I think Chris said he was gonna lead.
Hey, I'll do it.
That's the answer I
Sounds
was
good to
looking
me.
for.
I'm just running on whatever I got from earlier, so.
Maybe, budget committee, you can, designate, but what I think would be good, Chris can give kind of, maybe not 30,000 feet, but like 10-ish thousand feet. And then if you want him to dive in on a particular line and explain, or what goes into that line, he can. But if he goes in to great depth on every line, then it'll be tomorrow night before you get home, so. Proceed.
Sorry, I'm still calculating Skylar terms, so 30,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
How far down am I going here?
About a third as far as you want.
All right. You guys agree with this budget? That's where I'm at.
Oh.
No? Okay. A little farther in?
All
right.
Wow.
So we're gonna start out, so as we look at line 2, that's the working capital, the net working capital. That is what we're bringing in after this year. So after the year is over, that's what we've anticipated. We're gonna start out with that 850,000. Back taxes, it's really a guess at this point because it can vary from year to year. So 50,000 was pretty reasonable based off of what we saw this past year. We've got the $40,000 in tax interest. You'll notice that fluctuated. We did up that, but it's based off of how it had been accounted in the past, and an increase in LGIP, how much they've been paying out in interest. Before, they weren't counting any of the interest from LGIP. It was going into a different, it was just going in as bank interest, but that bank account is solely just tax. So we actually started budgeting that just in that account. That's something we had talked with our auditor about and came to the conclusion that it should be in there.
What's LGIT?
LGIP, that's our,
Local government investment pool.
Thank you, Kyle. That's where all of our tax money lives. So we don't have that in our general account, that's in the LGIP, and then we can transfer over as we're paying. LGIP is gonna be able to give you a lot more, money from interest than just our, local bank would give.
So scores of
Local government investment pool.
Pool their money.
Yeah.
Their cash.
But it's a massive style savings account that gets a lot more money. We're just gonna break it down.
So that $40,000 is the interest off of
That's just
money
the
that you put
interest
into that account?
from that, and then, a little, not much that we get from the county on the interest from the back taxes. That goes into that as well. That one's very minimal, usually under $100 a disbursement. The LGIP is more on the, like, it can be anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 based off of how much is coming in. So that's where the bulk of that comes. Donations, timber tax, we're going at 45,000. We went lower last year, but it was anticipated that it wasn't going to be as heavy. It's looking like we're not really seeing any difference in it. We haven't, we're actually, if not hitting that, we might have exceeded a little bit this year, but we want a little bit more conservative, kept it at that 50,000. Donations, we just kept the same. You can't really anticipate too much just on the average donation. 75,000 for grant sponsorships. The 10,000 is just our regular bank interest. Any other interest that we gain off of smaller accounts. 50,000. So miscellaneous, that means people have the opportunity to buy in to the district if they're out of the boundaries. There is also the bus sale. Yes, the sale of 2 buses that we have that currently are not being utilized. So we are going to liquidate those as well. So that was budgeted for.
So when you sell a capital asset, do the resources from that sale go into the general fund or into the capital?
I think we're expecting them to go into the general fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely a little. Yeah, I think we had planned on that one. I know you and Levi had talked more about the selling portion on that one. Yeah. So then a lot of these expenses we'll be getting into on the next budgets. This is just the basic overall budget, so I won't really touch on those. Same with our revenues. They're going to be in each department, but all of those, those revenues, those expenses, and then we have that transfer. So sorry, line 45, we have a transfer of $25,000 to the capital improvement fund. That's going to help for the next year when we do go for the bigger, when we're doing a non-operational push, we're going to be able to build that back up. I saw you had it.
Well, I'm just wondering, for the youth programs, why are we expecting it to go down that
Sorry,
much?
for which one?
Youth programs.
Because we had, and we'll kind of go over that in the slide, but we had been we thought we were going to get a lot more in the grant funding, and we had $150,000 put in, and we are nowhere near that. So we couldn't really say for sure that we were going to do that. This year we decided, we didn't want to overinflate it and try and kill there and then getting that much in grants. So
I don't know, Darren's pretty awesome.
he is pretty awesome, but I already am trying to kill him in other spots for more grant funding, so don't want to kill him twice. But we will get into a bigger dive into those on the following pages. Oh, thank you.
Hold your guys' class.
Sounds like a city problem, right?
Yeah, all those, yeah. But yeah, so that was that 25,000. We have that $50,000 contingency just for operating that we started last year.
So there's nothing on the debt service. The district doesn't have any debt.
So we do. It's going to be listed under the SRC under that building. That's going to be the
What's that mean?
Long-term debt.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question, Chris.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the $850,000 in net working capital?
So that took about a week and probably a couple weekends of taking every single GL line that we have, seeing where we're at, figuring out what percentage of the year we're at, doing, the remainder of the percentage, what revenues we had, the exact same thing, what bigger expenses we had, if we had any more revenues outstanding, like what Skylar said with the payment for the building. The difference of that is what will be that carryover for the next year, the 850. It could go up, it could go down, but we have to have something estimated at the best,
right.
the best educated guess that we could get.
Well, my concern is that net working capital is your ending fund balance from the year before, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. The estimated, because we wouldn't.
Well, you wouldn't know that right now.
Right.
But when you go through, the unappropriated ending fund balance never shows up as net working capital in the subsequent year.
You mean the same amount, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean,
It does,
those numbers ought to just transfer
I
forward.
feel like it does, like if you look,
So it does in 21-22.
yeah, there's
It
2 or
does
3.
22-23.
There's 3 years,
All those
it just
previous
didn't last year, but there's 3 years where it did. And it's a good point. I don't know exactly why it doesn't,
before that.
but
Well, with
Yeah.
your adopted, from last year, that's just your budgeted number, but that's, we won't know the actual until we're completed with our audit.
Right.
So then when we go into the next budget cycle next year, we'll know what our actual is, and that'll be part of our budget, be pulled into our budget process there, but, your net working capital is kind of always the most educated, guess that you could make of what our actual carryover is gonna be starting out next year, right?
Oh, yeah,
So-
I get that, but it's
Yeah.
related to the ending fund balance from the previous year. I was just trying to figure out how it all works together.
I got a question, for Steve, if we were to, have opportunities for grants, you know, which I'm sure we will, at some point, some grants require matching funds or a percentage for matching, you know, of the total. If we were to take money out of this spreadsheet, where would it come from for the matching grant?
Depends on what the grant is, or where it's focused. So if it's a youth, say it's a youth program focused, grant, we get $10,000 from Watson to increase our capacity in the infant and toddler program. Then, it would go in as revenue into the youth programs, but it would be expensed out of one of the expense lines in the youth program.
In that program?
In that program.
Okay, so it wouldn't come out of a capital fund or a contingency?
Not
It
unless
wouldn't
it
come out
was
of
focused,
contingency.
yeah, unless it was specifically focused on the capital, and there are a lot of, capital,
Well, that makes
small capital grants out there. We don't have any outstanding right at the moment, but, yeah.
Right.
And then if it's a matching one that's gonna be outside of a certain scope, then we would end up probably just going with the supplemental budget, because we couldn't.
If it ends up,
Like
if we had,
some of the higher-
if we had an opportunity we couldn't pass up. We'd
Yeah.
be like, okay, we're gonna get this $100,000, and we've got to, provide 25% match to that. Yeah, we didn't budget for it, then we would probably talk to you as the board on supplemental.
So,
Well, there's
Yeah,
a
but-
contingency, you got a contingency fund.
But we do have a
did we
contingency.
plan for that and contingency in that departmental budget?
Yeah.
Just such as this budget?
All right, is there any other question on this page?
Oh, yes.
I do notice I look that way.
I'm sorry. Well, can you please look at line 14 and tell me the jump to 50,000?
Yeah, that was what I had mentioned about the sale of the buses. That was
Oh,
part of
they've
it.
already been sold?
No, but we have to, no, because that would be under this budget.
Okay.
Yeah, if they were sold, then we'd put that on this one.
You're anticipating to sell them.
Yeah, and we, that one's pretty conservative as well. It's, that could go one of two ways, but I think it's looking pretty good at the number that we came up with our director of, facilities. I've got that name correct. Still don't have your name.
We got it. Good.
Yeah, any more on this one? The next ones will, it'll show more in depth on all the expenses for each department, all the revenues for each department as well.
Okay, wait. So, did you already answer this on line 35? That the decrease in the community center, the proposed budget is a decrease?
Where's 135 again?
Right, 135.
It's actually, it's right between 30 and 50.
I think we.
Where it should be.
You also have one
Well,
on 20.
I'm using my pencil, and it says it's line 35.
Well, we put a couple of fun things in here for you guys to find, and congratulations, Sue, you found it.
Oh, I forgot, we reordered them because they weren't in the department. I was
I'm just curious.
More swim time now.
Oh, yeah, so 35, yeah,
What?
35 what?
Line 35, why the decrease? Why the change?
The expense line is going down about $40,000 from what was adopted last year.
Yeah, our materials and services went down.
I can tell you exactly.
Last year, we were trying to budget for the purchase of some new tables
Yeah.
and things of that sort. And, so we ended up kind of putting a hiatus on purchasing the tables, throughout this next year, so, yeah. So that's one of the reasons.
And contract services, we had dropped that one. But we had budgeted a different contingency for something that we ended up not needing. We thought we were going to have to last year moving forward, and we didn't. So that did drop.
30,000 was labor expenses.
So if you turn to page 36, we'll get there, you'll see a greater breakout for communities. Same for all of the other departmental budgets, like Chris was saying. This is just like that summary sheet to wet your beak.
So I'm curious, you said there were 2 areas that you were hoping we wouldn't find? And I found one of them?
No, just a little, there's
I'm
another
just
number.
curious, is there a
No,
second?
there's
I'm
another-
just
Those are
curious.
just the fun little
I think,
snaps.
yeah, 20, between 18 and 22.
I've got, might be a silly question, but I noticed in the left-hand column, we have a numeric, numbering for the lines. Why do the numbers change sequence, between maintenance at 33 down to,
So
Broadway Field?
we pulled them so that they're in department order.
Oh, good lord.
For some reason, it was built in a different order before.
Isn't that it?
I inherited.
So the
and
sequence of the
Darren and I
numbers
both inherited this.
doesn't mean anything.
No, and we'll fix it, but it's just the way it is, so admin is technically,
Funny.
so admin's department 11, maintenance is 15, aquatics is 22, but it was like, community center was up here, and then so having it in order for us, because it goes by our GL code, it just makes it a lot easier to not make mistakes when we're pulling this into the system. Because that's where it really counts, because then board members get a board financial that isn't accurate if the GL codes aren't correct.
We don't like
Yeah,
those.
it's just more of a,
Interesting.
and I don't want to have that conversation during the.
All right, you want to take us through the admin page?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so administration. We'll start with our executive director. We have that at 115. We've got director of operations, which is fully moved over. That one had been split between three departments. That was within 3 departments. It was admin, aquatics, and community center. We blended it into one since he's now more grant-based and more admin-based. So that switched that FTE back up to 1. Finance manager, we've got the 6265. This is all based on a maximum of 3% for a merit. That will be the common theme for all the salaries, or not just salaries, but any wages. We've got our marketing manager, which is 0.5 FTE. That is actually, that one is gone. I keep thinking Zoe's marketing. So that one is actually cut. That one was before, it was marketing and special events. Now it's special events and recreation. So you'll see that one come up in a little bit. And then we have our admin personnel services. That just includes everyone else that is non-salary that works in our admin department, for a total of 1.25 FTEs. Expense-wise, we've got our postage and freight. We haven't actually had to send out as much. It's mostly just our bills. We were able to cut down quite a bit. Part of that would be we'd have to certify like our tax deliveries. We actually now can do that online, and we're not having to spend as much money doing that. We're not mailing out our program guides. We're actually distributing. We're making pulls to try to save as much as possible, and we're still seeing the same results. Yeah.
I'm on line 26, and we heard earlier that
yes,
insurance was going up, but the actual from 22, 23, we're down 40% from what the actual was at the end of last year.
Right. I know we had talked about that at one point.
There was something else that got rolled into
There was
that.
something else that we had for
Yeah,
insurance.
for 22,
yeah.
23, there was something else that got added into that line
But it was after
somehow,
Rick
but
had-
if you look back to 21, 22, the 23, 369 is actually the correct,
Yeah.
accurate number of what our insurance had been, from year to year, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 32 that's a
gonna
good
be-
number, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
That one is.
Okay.
Not sure if I really should go line by line.
Hey,
or-
let's,
or
I
there's-
got a question for you.
Yeah,
On line 36, employee recognition and retention,
Yes.
looks like it's trending down. I mean, is there, I don't know, it seems like we talked a little bit about like taking care of the employees, merit increases, things like that. I guess I'm just surprised.
So the merit will all be in the.
Well, yeah, in a separate line.
The recognition and retention, part of that is also, it's the employee apparel program. We ended up budgeting higher than we really ended up going on that one. So, we just kind of trimmed it back just a little to keep it a little bit more accurate. It's based off of how much they're allotted as well, so. Yeah.
So back to employee, like, retention up and expenses, is this, the proposed supposed to include, like, raises for these folks? No?
Wait, under personnel or under employee
Under
retention?
personnel.
Yes.
So like 7 through 13, so like
Correct.
we're going down in line 13 by 20,000? And shouldn't we be going up?
Yeah, so there's.
It did go down a little bit, like, I had an intern that is gonna be leaving, so that was part of it.
Okay.
So we had the 1-year internship, so, that was to
Chris,
help.
you didn't give yourself a raise.
Mhm.
You're
Little bit.
$265?
Yeah, but, so that year we did go, some of those years, you know, it kind of gets rounded up a little bit and then it doesn't hit that much, so you have a little bit of pass. Don't worry, it'll work
I just
out.
want to make sure that we're taking care of our people.
I gotta be the one that can't be higher, right?
$265. That's the merit increase.
So
So
that
that's where
one.
we said up to 3%,
I know.
up to 3%.
No, so mine was
We're
technically
going to
not
start
60,000.
getting really bad reports.
Right there, so we're good, don't worry. Yeah, we ran this off of the current rate, so it's closer than, there was a little extra, I think, on that one just to be safe.
Okay.
So we're good on that one, I promise you.
How much is the district providing for training for its executive staff?
Line 29.
29.
Well, but it's bundled with
It is.
travel.
It is
so,
bundled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to
it's
me,
up
I
there.
mean, this is personal, not work stuff, but it's important to me that we have a very well-trained executive. Whatever that means. Do you think this is enough to do it?
I think so. I mean, this past year, we sent quite a few people to SCAO, because it was local. The biggest issue is, like, I know for me, I'm able to do some of the online ones, which helps. Some of the bigger conferences get tough because then you're booking hotels when they're too far away, so it does get a little harder to send people to some of those ones, but I think we do a pretty good job at rotating who can go where and still managing to do training even if we're not able to go maybe up to an in-person one.
I think that's it's a good point, but we do try to take advantage of some of our member networks, the trainings that they provide. SDAO and ORPA both have a pretty robust training program, and yeah, there is some cost associated with certain things, but SDAO, a lot of those are free, and ORPA, a lot of them are pretty reasonable, a lot of day seminars, a lot of online training that's available. Another thing that's, I think, benefited us through SDAO is we have this online portal, we talked about this last month, that we require certain trainings for all of our staff, and so we've been able to kind of, I think, reduce some of the overhead of some of that training costs, especially onboarding processes through some of that online portal usage. It's been really nice.
Which also ties into helping keep that insurance rate down a little bit, because it could have gone up even higher, but we have the best practice discounts that we can do. And I guarantee you, we do each one that we're able to do, so we
Well,
utilize that as much as possible.
With SDAO over in Bend this year, do we need to be, I mean, I know
A little
there's,
more robust.
yeah, I'm just, you guys have taken a look at all this, so I'm just questioning that that's taken into account.
Yeah.
Because they'll be back here the following year, so, but next
Because I
year
know
it's
for
been.
I know for like myself, I won't be going to that one because I know I can go.
And Orpha's in Bend or Sun River.
Yeah, they're both in Sun River. Yeah, so I mean, we have funds budgeted. I think it's gonna, we'll have to kind of squeeze the orange and see how much juice we can get out of it. That line is typically a line, especially right now with some of my responsibilities with the state association, we're finding every last penny that we can in that line. But I think, Kyle, to your point, I appreciate that support. I think that's something for us to really pay attention to and be mindful of. It's not necessarily always going to conferences, but it's pursuing trainings and certifications that might be most beneficial. I am pretty confident in our administrative staff. These two folks, I mean, you heard from Chris, but he's pursuing his CPFO is right now. Darren's somebody that's always pretty engaged in professional development. Haley, our HR person, she is listed under this budget as well, or this category, and she's participating in the SDAO Leadership Academy right now, and she's pursued some other certifications and training. She just finished her master's degree. And then I think the other person in here that I would want to share is Isaiah, and Isaiah takes a lot of responsibility on educating himself, getting more trainings and certifications, excuse me. So I think if there was a growing need amongst the about 4 or 5 or 6 of us that are accounted for in this budget, we would probably allocate more funds, but I feel pretty confident in where we're at as an organization.
Yeah. You'll see as we go through the budget too, that we have a training travel meeting line in all the other departments as well. So our other department heads and coordinators, managers have funds allocated in those budgets as well to help with the training.
And on line F-22, sorry, so I saw are we expecting that to go up like the one-time things, or is this part of like getting the occupancy?
No, so admin, a lot of that is our accounting software.
Oh, those kind of like,
Like
software.
Yeah, they're a little spendier than initially thought. And then, is there something else you had?
Yeah, like Rec One,
yeah,
Civic Rec.
Rec One,
Civic Rec increased their licensure, annual licensure by 12%.
And that's our POS.
To,
Yeah, that's a big one right there.
Chris, out of curiosity,
Yeah.
for employee benefits, like social security tax, unemployment, workers' comp,
So that gets all rolled up into line 13. Everything kind of goes underneath that.
so that's not people necessarily, benefits.
correct.
Yeah.
PR taxes, benefits.
Why is it listed as an STD then?
Because there are, a portion of it a portion of that are employees as well. It's just anyone that's non-salary, and then the additional charges and all that.
I think, I'm curious if y'all crosswalk, cost of living and what I worry about is being too frugal on the, compensation side of things for staff. Have we done some analysis around COLA and particularly rates in our area? I just know that I get a little worried about it boxing ourselves into a corner, and not being able to attract talent and maintain talent. I'm also wondering when I look at the line items, and I think, Kyle, you said this, but I think we might be shortchanging ourselves on the carryover on the ending fund balance, carrying it over to the net working capital. But I'm not sure because I can't tell, because it seems like 2023 we ended up with an unappropriated fund balance of just over $1 million, but then our adopted, but we hadn't closed out the year when we adopted the 23-24 balance. So, you know, I'm wondering if we actually have an additional $230,000 that landed as unappropriated funds that landed into our net working capital in the 23-24 period.
Yeah, and that's a really great point, Celeste, and I really appreciate that. I think, you know, for Chris and I both, yeah, we'd love to see a couple $100,000 more come over, and there's a very strong possibility that will occur. But when we sat down and we were really trying to project it out, you want to look at some of your expenses in kind of like worst case scenario. Yeah, what if we spent all of that, you know? Chances are, yeah, we'll probably come up short, you know, not spending as much in personnel services, you know, and some of those areas. But I personally really would like to see that, because I would like to see our unappropriated ending fund balance for 24-25 be a little higher. I'd like to see it up around $550,000. You know,
yeah,
carrying over.
I agree. Yeah. But we should have 22-23 is closed, right? The books are closed on that, and we ended up with $1 million.
Yeah, $1,073,437.
But we didn't know that when we adopted the 23-24 budget, right? So we only thought we were going to have 137 to carry over.
Yeah, correct.
Sorry,
so when Chris and I sat down and ran the numbers, we didn't run it off. We didn't run it off of the 837,070. We actually put $1,073,437 in there and ran our numbers based off of that. So it was $200,000 higher on the revenue side when we were doing our calculations and trying to really anticipate where we're going to land. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Perfect.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
I suppose I still am, because I recognize, like, we built ourselves a nice little bit of a cushion here, and I recognize that we have some unusual and extraordinary expenses going out the door, which might make folks nervous, but these are, you know, investments that we've thought long and hard about, and I just don't want to be shortchanging our investment in staff because we're nervous Nellies about building up our nest egg bigger and bigger. We have the nest egg, we've gotten ourselves to a place where we're not having cash, as I understand it, we have enough cash flow liquidity to carry us over, that we're not having to kind of scramble. And I just don't know, I don't want to build the nest egg at the expense of our staff. That's I guess what I'm saying. And I'm also just aware of managing my own staff, how much I've had to raise salaries in order to stay competitive in the marketplace. It is, I'm happy to share those numbers if anybody's interested, but it's a little bit stunning. And I don't want that to happen to the Park and Rec. We already have a hard time recruiting folks. We know cost of living in this area is off the charts. And I just don't want us building our nest egg on the back of staff that are working so hard.
So, Celeste, would you recommend just having a line item with one number in it for staff promotions or increases, or are you going line by line?
Yeah, no, I don't think we need to go line by line. I think we could look at it, but I'm having a little trouble doing math on the fly to see, like, is there a percentage that we went by for COLA for the year in COLA plus merit, or what did we do to get the numbers? I understand that you're also, staff are coming in and looping, right, so that you're calculating those out, but is there a formula?
Yeah, so originally we had a higher number, and we reduced that number, just given the full picture of the budget, to around 3% for COLA and merit increase. Not 3% each, but a total of 3%. So the reason why is because of that kind of the big financial picture, and also we've invested heavily in our staff for the last few years with larger COLAs and merit increases than that, and we felt like
yeah, it's not to take away from what Celeste is saying. I think we'd really like to be able to afford a greater cost of living, potentially. The one that we're budgeting for is in line with the consumer price index, and it's at the lower end of the range of what other government agencies are offering in terms of COLA increases to their staffs. But it's really what the budget can withhold, what the budget committee approves, to be honest. I think maybe we could circle back around to this after we kind of review the other budgets, and you can maybe see we're advocating for a financial position that I think feels good to us, but we can understand that there's maybe other perspectives, and that's why we are happy to have the 10 voices in the room that can add to that.
And page 45 actually gives a staff breakdown for all the departments combined. It's just kind of an extra piece that Darren had included. So that way you can kind of see it breaks out wages, taxes, benefits, and all of that. So that way you can see it all on one page.
So let me just say, I love you guys for thinking ahead and knowing that we were going to ask for that. That's so awesome. I haven't gotten there yet. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's okay if you want to look at page 45, or do you want to continue the departmental budgets?
I think it might make sense to do the departmental budget.
Yeah. I think 45 is just kind of a reference if you want to flip back and forth if you had questions on anything that might help clear up some.
Nope.
We're in maintenance and house we can get away from that. Just one of the biggest pieces that jumps out, because you're going to see a big jump in it, is line 16. That actually now includes, so the SRC, for the people that are familiar with this, it used to be its own fund. We finally were able to condense it to the general fund instead of having it separated out. So the Broadway field used to be a fund, general or SRC was a fund. Now they're all within the general fund. So that contract under maintenance is actually a cleaning contract. That's line 15. Line 16. It used to be, like a $1,500 contract that they would have. So now it includes the cleaning over at the SRC, that's just contracted out through another company. So that's why it looks like there's just this massive jump in maintenance, but at least for that section.
A different budget is why that's so big.
On that one, yeah, because it used to be separated just under the SRC fund, because we couldn't really say that it was a general fund expense, but now we can actually have it under Levi, who was managing it before, but now it's with all of his items.
So the capital expense?
Yes.
That's the fire one.
No, so that one is siding for the pool. There are 2 more sides of the building that need new siding to be able to keep it fresh and not let things get in. And we're working on that one.
Wait, which line is that? Is that 32?
32. Water
Okay.
capital. Yeah, the bulk of this is, like Skylar had said earlier, it's just really kind of keeping things running smoothly. We have our $60,000 for our aquatics repair and maintenance, $50,000 for the SRC, which is brought in from the other budget.
I like to have it in there. Thank you guys for
Yeah, makes it a lot easier.
a lot less confusing.
So
Yeah.
it came at the suggestion of our auditor after the audit last year, so, the board voted to do that this year.
Is there Were there really any numbers that popped out to anyone in here, or anything that you can go over?
See, there's like line 23, and then there's like a space, fiscal 24, and that's, is that Broadway field repair and maintenance, like, wipe it all by itself.
You should say MNT and then
Yeah.
Broadway Field repair and
just-
maintenance, yeah.
It was just brought over from the other,
Oh, that's
so
another one.
we'll renumber that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one wasn't there before. And that's why, so, like the Broadway field, you'll see the blanks for the years before. Those are, you can see the actual numbers on page 40 for the Broadway field, 41 for the SRC. Eventually, those will not be included after 3 years, because they'll be in the general fund, but for the next 3 years, we'll attach both of those, so you can still see what we had spent before, but, we'll have those in their own separate budget for the next one. So like the Broadway field, you will see zeros for the first 3 years, then you go to the Broadway field fund page and you see the remaining ones. But that's kind of the same on line, we'll call that 23B for right now.
Anything else on this one? Onward.
Perfect. All right, it's page 33 for aquatics. You know, our swim lessons have been great. It's going to be going up. Our pass sales have been great as well. A lot of people have been checking in, as you saw on the graph, and they've had quite a few people coming daily. School programs, that one it's not really easy to increase that one because first off, there's only a certain amount of schools and only a certain amount of times that they're able to really come. So that one kind of consistently stays about the same.
What are contracted programs?
So that's going to be some of our insurance.
Line 7.
Yeah, so that'll be some of the insurance benefit program pieces.
Oh, I got you.
That's going to be split. So that number is actually only 60% of what we get. The other 40 lives in recreation. It gets split between the two. And then that includes like any of our corporate passes that people could do as well. Yeah. I think I'm forgetting any groups, right? I think it's just those two. Perfect. I think so.
Out of curiosity for swim lessons, so we're doing a decent jump from 50 to 70.
It's pretty accurate. And I
Well,
want
I mean, I know
yeah.
they're full, I just like, is there a point where we, like, if we had every slot
cap
filled,
out.
and like, what is that number? Like, every,
That's a good question.
It's probably higher than this, but I think this is,
Well, it wouldn't, so, sorry, that's kind of a tricky one, because this also includes Carolyn's lessons as well, so that, so yeah, it's balancing how many we think Carolyn's gonna get mixed with how many our regular swim lessons would have.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely confident that we'll be able to hit that.
I just,
It'd be
you
great
know,
if we went a little bit over.
pool space being at a
Yeah,
premium, like, you can't really pack too many more
can't add too many.
swim lessons in there, but you already have.
Yeah, because then we're taking away from our last one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Pretty soon, build on a pool.
well, you got Darren, right?
Actually,
Yeah.
it'd probably be cheaper to build a new one than it would be to make ours deeper.
The Mac one that raised.
Not allocating any director of operation costs.
Not
No,
anymore,
no,
that's
that's-
all under admin now.
Okay.
Because now it's more focused on just grants for the district instead. Instead, he was doing IT work for the pool and things like that.
Other state front desk staff.
Front desk staff, yeah.
So do you book your utilities by program?
No, aquatics, yes, because it's just one building. Youth programs, it would be a little hard to do that, so it's under the SRC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the utilities here are the utilities for the pool?
Just the pool, yeah.
And they're
Also
going
the
up
like
And the West Wing, sorry.
Yeah, the West Wing and like the fitness room and
Yeah.
admin. So that whole structure is under.
But it's all booked the same year by year, right? So there hasn't been any changes in how you book utilities. So we got a 30% increase from the actual at the end of last year until next year.
Yeah, because I mean, Pacific Power did go up, what was it, like 15% on 1 year?
Mm-hmm.
And so they did increase it, and then we added
Another
in.
request for 7% or something.
Yeah. So it has
Okay.
been kind of going up a bit.
Can I ask a question? So, the former youth center,
Yeah.
is it still in the hands of the city in any way, or has it been willed over to us, to the district?
Has not been transferred in ownership, but the city has given us a lot of permission and utilizing the building for our current purposes. As we expanded services at the SRC, we were able to shift child youth programs over there. We didn't need the youth center anymore for those same purposes, so now it's functioning as a administrative space and housing.
Which is-
most of our admin offices, our maintenance office is there, so.
Because I mean, at that point, when we had, 25 to 30 preschoolers, it was a room a little bit smaller than this. And that was, I mean, you remember those days?
I do. I do.
Yeah, they weren't. it
My
wasn't
daughter
great.
was there.
There was a little wall dividing two classrooms that was
Yes.
not even as tall as me. So now they actually have full classrooms, and it works out a lot better.
Hey, I have one question on aquatic personnel.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a perception, from the people that I talk to, that there's, like, it never seems like there's enough lifeguards. And I wonder, one, to the extent, like, that perception is accurate, and if it is accurate, is it a budget problem? Like, is this an area where, like, you could be spending more to pay lifeguards, or is this, what's going on there?
Well, I know, so one part, it's also, it can be timing. So we have a lot of lifeguards that are on swim team. So all of a sudden, we get to like swim team season, and it's like, well, we'll see about half of you later. And it can be,
It's really an industry wide trend throughout the country, at least. It's not a job that a lot of people stay in for very long because of the monotony of the job and also because of the training requirements. And it's hard, it's challenging around here for us to find folks that want that experience over an experience working in a hospitality or tourism related industry where they could probably make more. So
It partly is a budget problem.
it partly is, but also it's the hours that are available. It's I think the monotony of the job. It's not fast paced. I don't want to say it's boring because obviously we need those folks to perform this important duty for us, and they have. We've had a few rescues in the last few months where our staff performed really well.
Remarkable rescues.
But yeah, it's something that we kind of ebbs and flows here. We'll have 6 months or more where it seems like we're fully staffed and we can expand hours even when we go back to providing weekends, and then for whatever reason we'll lose 2 or 3 of them, and that really impacts the operational status of the district.
I guess I'm just thinking about Celeste's point, you know, in like, if this is an area where it might make sense to, if there's opportunities.
Higher wages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say Lindsay does a good job with, aquatics coordinator, yes. I'm trying to look through all the different names. She also, so a lot of our swim instructors are also lifeguards, so we do cross-train in those. So that kind of helps with that as well. But then it also brings up a hard part where then there's guarding when you have swim lessons, so you kind of balance back and forth.
Yeah. It can be like, honestly, a 2 to 3 month process, just getting the person through the lifeguard employment paperwork and training and testing of skills.
So you have to make sure that they can do this.
Do we do the training and testing?
We do.
In-house?
Yeah.
Does it,
But like, we have 2 high school students that, I know one of them we've been working with since February, and one probably for less time, and they were just, didn't we say they were just testing today or tomorrow?
Yeah.
And there's some anticipation, because like, those 2 students, like, they'll really help bolster our, it just takes a long line, or a long time to get them through kind of this training
And then once we
process.
get them in there, we also have to have them shadow guard. They can't guard on their own. It
Like
takes
40 hours or something,
between 20 and 40 hours.
that
They have
part,
to shadow.
I guess, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Coming in sort of new to this, the idea that it takes 3 months to get somebody onboarded is
It can.
shocking.
I mean,
like, what's the?
Well,
what's
it's
the-
like-
It depends on
Somebody
the
needs to-
skill level from the beginning too, though. Like if they're a super solid swimmer and they can go, it can be a lot quicker. But if it's somebody that came in and they're still a little uncomfortable with, we can work with them for a little while. They might not be on staff yet, but we're willing to at least, hop in and we can help them strengthen their swimming. So like Lindsay can help them, Carolyn can kind of help them, just teach them a little bit to get them to where they feel more confident in their swimming abilities. And then, so that's what kind of takes that a little bit longer.
So we've got guards like barely know how to swim when they
No.
start?
Well, we have people that come in that want to be able to,
Okay.
but they know that they need to get to that point, and we don't want to say, hey, sorry, we don't want you around here. We want to get them built up to that point where they are at that level that we expect, but without turning them away and saying, go find a job somewhere else.
And then, unfortunately, they're here like 6 months and you lose them to another gig.
Those ones usually stay a little longer, actually. I think, and that's why we put more effort in that, to keep them here a little bit longer. Maybe some of them might have something else, but then they do come back. We've had staff that took other jobs, so they're like, you know what, I'll work at 5 o'clock in the morning just to be able to come here still. So, like, we have one employee that comes in at 5:45, and then she stays for a few hours and then goes to another job just to be able to still be part of the district and the pool. So we build those relationships too, so it's kind of that give and take a little bit of it.
I know you said, Skylar,
What
like, this is the hard.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I was thinking about Skylar's point, about how the district was formed for the pool, and the pool would be vital. So, anyway, so I just want to give a little more attention to that, but Les, take it away.
Yeah, I think it's central, and I'm just, in hearing about the amount of investment that goes into onboarding something, it sure seems like we could have a fairly small pot of money that provided some sort of longevity or return bonus for people that come back and beyond, and might incentivize people to stick around or come back year to year. And it wouldn't cost, it sounds like it would cost us less than what it costs to onboard somebody new.
Yeah, we do have some longevity bonus built into our current system. They're not necessarily for like, come back every summer and you get a bonus. They're like, stay here for 5 years or 10 years or longer. So that, for a 16-year-old, that, 10 years might seem.
I mean, by then you'll be, the finance manager. You want to be a guard?
Oh, I gotta start lifeguarding.
I know.
You don't say executive director, but.
No, I'm good, I've put my foot down on that one. You can keep that.
Can you tell me on line 40 why it went down by, 5,000 or less?
It actually went up.
No, 127 to 122.
Well, right, but from the end of last year, that was just, that 127 is just what they budgeted. It's not actual.
We did drop refunds down a little bit, that helped because we're doing more, so like, let's say we had a horrible thing where people would sign up and just, swim lessons are very tough, they'd get their spot to hold it, decide if they wanted it, and then go, we're actually good now. Now they can't get the physical. We can put it on a credit for them, because it's in our policy, but we don't want people just taking spots away from other people. That was getting kind of old fast, where it was like, people are actually logging in at midnight to hope to get a swim lesson.
I mean, it's the Oklahoma land rush.
Yeah, it's great. It's like, I mean, people are lining up and like, we've had system crashes, we've had everything, just for people to get in.
Staggered time thing.
That helps.
Good call.
I was
Yeah.
so happy with that, where it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna lie, they had their problems, and then when I see the bank statement, I'm like, this time again. And I'm like, I gotta go through how many receipts to make sure everything went through? Okay, but, yeah, so I mean, we're talking like, probably, what, 300 transactions? Yeah. So, but that's where it kind of got frustrating, and like I said, people would just kind of put in like multiple days just to make sure they got one, and then try to pull it out. So now we're doing more of credit on account instead, so we're not paying that out. Because then they can use it for the next lesson, we're still seeing that revenue, but we're not paying out that expense.
So, to get back to Celeste's point, so if you want to put a placeholder in to reward employees, either by pay increases or merit increases or some other beneficial, gift card to Safeway or something that you might want to give up for retention purposes. So do you do that, or would you prefer to do that in the context of a separate line item?
I mean,
that would cover the whole
go
district, or
through.
do you want to do that program by program?
So just kind of, and you might be able to speak more of that, but I think that would have to be a whole new board thing with our packet, with the employee handbook and all that stuff, that we don't have anything.
Yeah,
in that.
I feel like what
Because
you're asking.
especially if we're, like, I know originally it was like, oh, if we had something for aquatics, then how's that gonna make our youth staff feel? Or are they gonna say, well, then why am I staying here if I don't get the same things? Or maybe our rec staff, so it could get a little.
Sure, I think what's in probably the purview of the budget committee, though, to your point, is just to get done reviewing this and to say, okay, this budget includes a 3% merit/COLA increase for staff. What the budget committee wants to change is that number from 3% to whatever, and saying we want a budget that has that change. You could also say, instead of, I don't know where it might live, but if you go back to admin, instead of 10,500 in line 36 under employee recognition retention, we would like to allocate X amount, and we want that used for these purposes, for employee recognition programs that the district staff sees fit. So I think that's in the purview. That would be totally appropriate for the budget committee. I would just recommend that we wait, maybe get through the other departmental budgets and then see kind of where things are at.
Does that answer your question, Celeste?
Yeah, that was great, thank you. And I agree that we should get through the rest of it so that we can see where we are, because we're spending money that we don't know whether or not we have at the end of the spreadsheet.
So can I ask, on line 34 and 35, I mean, the change from, $9,000 to $6,000, is that logical?
Yeah. So this year we ended up buying lane lines, which were about 3,000-ish.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's pretty close to that. Yeah.
And they're lovely.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer, and it's a lot safer, and you're not getting cut when you pull them out. So that's great. But yeah, and then it's just be more in line with what we've had in the past.
Okay.
That little kid swim team sure is nice. It's good, it's growing.
Oh, yeah.
My little guy's in it, and I can't believe how many kids in it. It's really cool.
Yeah, maybe they've done really well. They had some big shoes to fill, and I think they're doing a great job with it.
Next page, rec budget.
Good.
So I assume that recreation personal services, you've got a new hire coming in at $72,000 for 3/4 time.
You're talking about, line 18? So it's probably multiple positions.
So it's gonna be fitness
Sorry.
instructors, recreation leaders.
And our personal trainers, right? So it's a combination of a bunch of different positions that are working, usually limited hours each, but combined. Yeah, and some of them, some of those positions, because of the certifications required, are at a decently higher rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want those folks having the experience and education and training in their background.
And I will just really quickly point out line 5, last year we had an RPA grant, that's why it was $47,500. Just so you don't see a drop like that and go, wow, recreation's not pulling their weight, but no, that was just from that grant. Yeah.
Aaron's gonna get that again, right?
Or one just like it.
Good enough.
And that's to
Maybe one
explain
with a little less.
line 36 has changed.
Which one?
Line 36 goes
Yeah.
from 69 down to 31.
Exactly, because
Okay.
you had to have that expense down there too.
With line 27.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Anything else on this page? Youth programs.
Kind of a smaller one, so adorable. All right, youth programs.
Similar to last page, so you see that, line 2, $90,000 reduction, $90,000 reduction in grant donations, and that's attributed mainly, the revenue total is pretty much just accounts for that. Everything else is fairly consistent, or maybe even a little more expected revenue, but just without fully, actualizing those grants. And we're confident in our grant writer, and our system this year, I think, is much improved from last year, but we're still, we don't want to be overly optimistic. We're expecting to bring in a couple $100,000, which is kind of what we budgeted last year, and that's, it makes things a little bit challenging when you're budgeting and you haven't gotten those actualized.
So are you tracking pretty closely this year for grants, 140 level or a lot lower?
A lot lower, yeah, for this budget especially, yeah. We, the previous budget year, 22-23, we had been the recipient of a couple of pretty good grants, and that kind of helped us expand those youth programs, that infant toddler care especially. And we were hoping to kind of hit on phase 2 of some of those grants, and we weren't able to obtain them.
Yeah, like Chris had pointed out, the parameters have kind of changed on those two. We're back a little closer to, during that 22-23 timeframe, they didn't have the requirement that we have the full occupancy of that building and the state licensure. So now they'll require state licensure for those same grants that we were able to access before. So kind of the emphasis on getting our occupancy and a site licensed and give us access to a lot more grant opportunities as we move forward. So, yeah.
So does what you just say help explain the change in line 37, 39, 40, and 42? I mean, they're just all, they're all, things that...
I don't really think, so like, nutrition is a perfect example of just us trying to figure out the best way. We used to use a delivery company. We don't do that anymore because it was way more expensive than having a staff person go and pick up an order from Costco and cash and carry. Because
So what kinds of products are
food for our kids, so like, because we provide snacks and things like that. But like with the delivery companies, you have to order 15 items. No, 15 separate items. You can order 100 of one, but that doesn't count towards your order. So our bills were going through the roof because we had to make pointless orders to meet their minimum.
Didn't have the right number of SKUs.
Exactly, and so you were ordering just stuff that we didn't need. Now that we're doing that, I mean, it's gone down quite a bit just by doing things like that. I will say that for supplies, our staff are very good at reusing things, because that's kind of what they're teaching the kids to do with a lot of these projects. They're like, look what you can do with all these extra things that we already have. So that's helped us out a lot too. They're very resourceful, because they want their kids to be resourceful. So you have to teach that by showing them, which I'm happy because it helps me out.
Mission accomplished.
Exactly.
And simply on line 40, is the refunds the same thing you explained?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So imagine, take swim lessons, take that over to summer camp, exact same thing, where you have people that would sign up for this.
Oh, my goodness.
They're like, I want 10 weeks of summer camp. Just kidding, I want 2. And you're like, well, we can't have you doing that, because then, you know, we have like 10 people on our wait list. And then-
Occasionally there are like the people that,
Yeah.
they sign up for, multiple weeks and then they move, or like, maybe multiple months of preschool or infant toddler care, and then plans change or whatever.
Yeah, you do get those.
There's some legitimate.
But then you have a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And that's where we're like, we're not gonna do a full refund just because you're trying to make sure that you can plan around what weeks you can get.
So our last actual youth program expenses were 6 1/4, and now they're 7 3/4. So are we good with that?
You're just referring to personnel, or?
I'm referring to the bottom line, total expenses. It went from 621 to.
I think the reason why I was drawn to personnel is because that's where the majority of those increases lay, right? And so,
A lot of that's the infant toddler.
yeah, the infant toddler.
Because you have those, I mean, it's 1-to-1 on some of them, or 1-to-2.
Yeah,
For the infants.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's where it, and if you think about it, that jump from 21, 22 to 22, 23 was when we implemented infant toddler. So that's why you start seeing that.
Right, but you're okay with the numbers, you're okay with the increase, recognizing the reasons for it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think, one thing that we should have pointed out, sorry, but, you may be familiar enough with the budget, but if you look, the last row on each page is a data point called cost recovery. It's just basically how much of that program budget are we receiving, sorry, I can't talk right now, receiving via program fees. And so I think that's an important data point. You'll see for youth programs, it's around 50%. For recreation, it's also around 50%. Special events is around 50%. The one kind of outlier is aquatics, and that's because it's very expensive to operate a pool. It's literally a sinkhole. And while it is the heart and soul of the district, I think if you could choose how you're going to start your recreation district or your agency, you might not always choose to start with a pool, just because you never are able to quite turn like the proverbial corner on making enough revenue. Now, having said that, I think it's our big picture. It's like our responsibility as a district to offer these programs, and we're not trying to draw revenue on everything. We subsidize the programs, and we do it knowingly because we want our district residents and guests to be able to participate in these things, and that's really important to us, just like it's important to all of you. So just something to kind of keep in mind.
How old is this pool?
It is 47. Yeah, opened in 1977. So, and the district is 55. So, how's that for history?
Took a little while to get the pool going.
Yeah, it did. There was some challenges. Yeah, even though the district was formed, they couldn't quite get the funding figured out.
All right, so we've been going about an hour since our last break. I mean, where are people at physically? I mean, we want to take like another 5-minute break and come back, or just keep on going?
Keep going.
All right.
Let's go. Speaking of a nice high-cost recovery, we have community center. This one is, we did negotiate our contracts, so that is actually up a little bit this year. Rental deposits and rentals, people love to use this building. Fortunately, we have to get a deposit from them before, which we also have to get back. So if you see, we have it slightly higher than, so line 7 is slightly higher than line 28, because every now and then you might have somebody that cancels a full rental. You never know what's going to happen. So that one is just slightly above the rental deposit. Contract services, we were able to cut down. We had budgeted higher. We thought we were going to have some higher expenses, and that didn't end up coming up. So we are looking pretty good at 5,000. This is kind of matching what we're expecting this year to end at for that, maybe a little bit higher than that. I don't think there was anything else too crazy.
I had a question. Could you discuss why the rental deposit and the refunds are so close?
Because so every refund deposit, every deposit that we get, as long as they didn't leave it a mess, they get back. It's to ensure that, let's say we rent out this room and somebody punches a hole through the wall, well, we're taking that money because we have to fix it. But if you leave it in working order, then you're getting that money back. So we have to match it to whatever we bring in, and then just slightly higher in the case of somebody canceled an actual rental.
On line 26, what's MVPH?
Mary Blake Playhouse, that's the building
Oh,
behind you.
okay.
Yeah, that's just the expenses for that one.
Just didn't recognize it.
Looks like you had a question.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, the building is owned by the city, and I thought I mean, I know we were joking a little bit earlier, but like if something breaks,
Well,
we tell the city. So why are we giving the cost?
because so if we're operating in here and it's something that our people did, they're gonna come back and be like, what were you doing? Were you watching them? Did you have staff there? Like, they're gonna come back and be like, that's not typical wear and tear, or just something that might have been an accident. Like if they spill a bunch of stuff and they have to come in and deep clean the floor or something, that it's more of stuff that would be on us because of our programming and allowing them to be in here.
Yeah.
It would be different if if they went to open a door and the door handle actually just like fell off, that's on the city. We're not going to charge them for that one, but yeah, it's more to protect us if they, let's say, trash.
Hold them accountable.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think $50.
$50 for that building, but it's $200 for the main hall.
Take your money.
$200 for the main hall, and then it's $250 additional if you have alcohol, because that just makes everything more. It just makes that goes through the roof.
Based on my own experience, I don't know if $50 should have.
Thankfully, that one technically shouldn't have.
Rate for nonprofits,
For the rental it is, but not for the deposit. The deposit's just flat or something. Yeah, because they'll get that back as long as they're not being done that something.
So just to note too, the deposit and rental rates for the facility are set by city ordinance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, we want to make sure you're covered.
Yeah.
No, you can have white, and you can have brown, and you can have red.
All right, special event?
Yeah, this one's usually in there.
The first time I've ever heard.
All right, special events, the biggest thing would be farmer's market revenue going up again, because it just keeps getting bigger.
Because Zoe likes to compete with herself.
She does, every year. I try to keep her down a little bit. She's like, no, I'll get that. And I'm like, I know you will.
Every number, she has to beat the record.
She does.
So the farmer's market, you get food fees plus revenue sharing.
Plus, so not revenue sharing, I don't think we've started that, right? I know someone did. Well, it's so weird because we do the double up food bucks, we do the SNAP, so we get money from those. So like, you can come in with your food card and we'll, I knew which one we're not doing.
We're not doing the
We're not
SNAP
doing
match.
SNAP match. It
Yeah,
used to
we're
be
doing
where you
double
would
up
get
food.
extra off of your SNAP. But so you can come in with $20 on your food card, and now it becomes $40, and that's through a grant that allows us to do that. So that's part of that revenue is also the grant coming in, because we're paying the vendors out for the money that we're getting that way.
Why is line 8 going down? Because I thought we were putting a lot of publicity and,
Yeah, we had gotten a really, good, grant for the first 2 years of Chalk Card, and that grant, we don't have it. Yeah, it's not to say that we can't find another grant or a sponsorship, but that's the main reason.
Yeah.
Why is family dance going down $1,000?
She wants to make, I know this was Zoe's thought, she wants to make it a little bit more affordable for more families. Because that was kind of a struggle in the last one, and with it being more of a, that was kind of that whole cost recovery, ignore line 54 for a second. When we did an actual cost recovery program, we had to decide, which events were gonna be closer to the 100% or 110% recovery, which ones would be more of, an event that you're trying to just get people in to be able to do something like swim lessons. Were a good example of your basic level. It's going to be a higher tax base coverage because you're teaching them how to swim rather than your higher level 6 where they're trying to become more competitive. It's about life saving versus just trying to go for sports. You're not going to cover as much of that one as you are for that one. So I think she's trying to align that more to get families in doing more things together for that.
well, didn't there used to be, 2 different dances and now we're
It was mother,
consolidating?
son, father,
But
daughter.
that would be, I think
now
that's really smart.
It was until we had a lot of different families that didn't fall under that category, maybe that didn't feel welcome. And that's why they moved it to the
She's saying
family.
the change was smart, right?
Yeah.
Or are you saying the
Oh,
change?
gotcha, I thought you meant
To
that,
go from father to,
Yeah.
to bring that
Gotcha,
into one
yeah.
dance instead of put on 2 events and
yeah.
2 different weekends and get all the volunteers. I
Yeah.
think that's smart.
Sorry, I thought you were saying the opposite, that's why we were going to that one, but, gotcha.
To Chris, I would say that, during our sit down with Zoe, she proposed the 3,500, just based on, what you don't see here, you see the adopted of 4,500 for last year. That's not the actual. We're probably gonna be around that 2,900 mark. It's kind of pretty consistent with what the actual was for 21-22 and 22-23. She thought between user fees and what she could reasonably get in sponsorships for the event, that 3,500 is gonna be a little closer to where she's gonna actually wind up, revenue-wise on that.
That's a good goal of change. She's challenging herself again.
So what's line 9? What does that mean, foundation events?
So think of
Savor and the culture, right?
no, so those all go under, but we might not see as much this time for it, but Fascination, because we had to ring it, we had to put it through Rev
We
1.
didn't do that this year.
They did it,
No, but we didn't.
Oh, yeah,
we
you
did,
got-
oh, I noticed.
I was like, trust me, I got the money for that.
I was at
You know,
2 events.
that's who was missing. I was trying to think,
Well, the left-handed team was missing.
And then, this also counts, so we used to have it under, admin for, money coming in. It was under, not admin, but it's on the general page. We used to have it up there, but then,
Foundation bequests.
yeah, but then it was tough to be able to pay it out of somewhere because you can't pay it out of admin, so that way we can, if somebody comes in and pays, wants to do a pass-through into the foundation, it can go in through special events, and then it gets expensed down there as well. Instead of having to try to match it up on 2 or 3 different pages, because that becomes a nightmare when you're trying to track it on the budget.
And then the food truck permit, I assume, is wrapped into took out a permit and put in the farmer's market.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're subsidizing the special events.
I think
The taxpayers are subsidizing the special events, right? So the philosophy behind that is sound. I mean, if we hold a special event, do we expect that we're gonna hold a special event and recover our costs?
So I know like the community egg hunt was one of those examples where, yeah, that one was subsidized by, except she's also amazing at getting sponsorships. So she goes for sponsors more than tax money.
She burns them up. And throws them out.
She gets them she can get money out of pretty much anyone that I don't know if you can get money from them, and all of a sudden she comes back the next day and she's like, there's your check. I'm like, never mind, I'll sit down and be quiet. So she is good at convincing people and what they should donate to. Yeah, she would rather, like Catherine's right, she does set her goals high, and she will try to beat them every single year.
She networks quite a bit with chambers.
She really does, though. She goes to
Every Wednesday, she's all over.
You guys will see her again on Thursday promoting more, so she'll be there.
So the 100K is not a revenue source?
Which one?
The 100K?
No, so, we're gonna cut that one. It's just, it did not do so well.
Well, we haven't.
We haven't run into it.
Yeah.
Like 4 years, so.
It just is
The initial thought was
it's another
to
artifact
have
on
it,
our.
but we're gonna take it off of that.
Okay.
At one point, because we'd have a line for every event that we thought was gonna go well, so, and then it might last for a year, we had kind of like a new event line where we wouldn't, and then that one became the chalk art, because it seems like it's.
Well,
doing-
wasn't it for the prom?
Yeah, it started out as the prom centennial, and then that didn't do anything, but then the chalk art part stayed, and then the 100K stayed with it.
The chalk art is fun.
Yeah.
100K doesn't sound
Yes, it is.
by yourself.
I'm wondering, if we were to do a pickleball tournament, does it fall under special events or would it fall under recreation? And part of the reason I'm wondering too is when I look at these numbers, I mean, this is a lot of effort on some fairly, like I can buy the idea that some of these special events are really good marketing events for us, right? We could almost consider it a marketing cost, in getting up the community. But in that case, I'm gonna be super interested in numbers. Like Farmers Market has high numbers and Easter Egg Hunt has high numbers, but I'm not so sure about some of the other, like, right, I'd look at that as part of the return on investment, is how many people we're connecting. But I'm also curious if there's room for special events that would be like the pickleball, or would that be recreation?
I think we had planned on that to be recreation, because we had a recreation event area. So I think it's.
Didn't we do one?
We did.
Say you already
It
did
was-
one?
Yeah,
We did, but wasn't it, and it was through somebody else too, so it was a contract.
yeah, we had a contract. It was under, on recreation on line 9.
Yeah.
That's where it lived. I don't think it would have to live there. I'm not sure if it makes a difference, but I think we viewed, the special events that we have as being, accessible to all, regardless of ability or previous experience with a sport or activity or fitness levels. I know 5K can be intimidating as well, but most of these are kind of, I think, targeted to be the entryway into the district, if you will. But I think your point is sound, Kyle. To your point, I mean, I actually felt like this budget was healthier than in the past. I felt. I think I know you can't take out the personnel expenses, but if you did, this budget easily, covers all of its expenses, and you can't say that for all of our other budgets. Obviously, you put a personnel.
But it doesn't just have to cover all of the expenses. It has to cover all of the expenses plus the expenses for the first 5 months of the fiscal year.
Sure.
That's the thing, I would say, like, the bulk of our personnel for this one is farmers market. That's the most time consuming.
Labor intensive.
Yeah.
And I love hearing about sort of the go-getterness of this, and that's why I was sort of wondering, are we spending a lot of, the staff costs are our highest expense. That's our most expensive expenditure. By far. And so that, we can't ignore the cost of the staff to do stuff, and I'm just wondering if this staff if we have staff that can go out and get stuff, like, maybe we're selling the wrong thing. Maybe a pickleball tournament's gonna be easier to sell and bring in a whole bunch of sponsors for that. That's why I guess I was wondering about it, about what falls in here. And I think us to take a larger view, and I don't know if it's in the purview of the budget committee or not, but to take a larger view about what is the what for holding some of these events, you know. And I think to your point, Skylar, if it's an entryway, like, I would want to know an entryway for how many people. That's an important, like, because then it's how much does it cost to bring in a new person to the district, per person. And that's different for farmers market where we have 20,000 people being introduced or whatever it is, versus, I don't know, something else that maybe has 12 or 15 people.
Yeah.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
On line 41, why isn't there anything? What changed?
There was the only permits we really had ended up being just farmers market related. So we had shifted it 1 year to see if we were gonna have more. Only thing we have is the one for to actually have the market going, so we just put it
So
into
there's
that.
no permit required this year?
No, well, there is, but it's under the farmers market.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can I just back up for just a second? So, we have these special events to draw new people to the district. So, we may not, I still think that they are an important part of the whole package.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I say the special event probably keep a lot of people coming back.
Yeah.
Because there's, yeah.
It brings people, and we don't know what they're gonna bring with them, you know, in there, but each person is individually invited to participate and add to the district. So,
I don't think we could ever cut egg hunt. I think people may come out with pitchforks and axes. It would be like a revolution, but yeah, it's, yeah.
Well, I think the turkey trot too, having worked that for a number of years, it's just amazing to see it grow, and people are having a lot of fun to start their Thanksgiving.
even in the snow.
But I think there's a difference in, I mean, what Celeste is saying is that we can subsidize this, knowing that what we're subsidizing is marketing expense. And most of these we can't fix with the possible exception of the turkey trot or the 5K. You can't really justify it by saying it's an athletic activity, because the egg hunt is not, and whatever. But
it's recreation.
It's recreation. I think it's important for the board and the budget committee to know that we don't expect to recover all of our costs on these. It's not
that kind of business.
Yeah, well, and I guess we could look at them individually and say, well, really, you know, what do we get from the chalk art contest if you have a dozen people drawing and it costs us $5?
I will tell you, because I do it.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not saying the chalk art contest is bad. I'm saying that not each one of these items is equal to the other items. We subsidize some more or some less based on the number of participants and whatever. And I just think it would be nice to know which ones are more subsidized than the others, so we can justify that subsidy.
Yeah, I think to get that number accurately, what we'd really have to dial in with our special event manager is the time allocation. Like, almost needs a different like job code for each of the special events. Because that's what I think would be really hard to quantify. I think we can figure out the materials and services and weigh that against the sponsorship and participation revenue. But what's hard for me, even just thinking about it, is how much time does Zoe spend on farmers market versus chalk art? You know, I know one is much higher than the other, but I think that would be really important for us to.
Yeah, what I don't want to do is create an onerous burden for somebody
Sure.
who's already moving a million miles an
Yeah.
hour and her hair's on fire, you know?
Yeah.
I want to,
Doing a lot of good.
Well, I-
yeah, doing a lot of good. The last
I
thing you
don't-
want to do is put the brakes on that until
I
there's
know
a lot
it's-
more paperwork.
The truck art contest wasn't really expected to be as popular as it was. And it's just, having been part of that, and her children part of it, I mean, the artists, it was really impressive how people, I mean, I had a friend come down the weekend after going, I have to go see that chalk art. And I'm like, well, most of it's, faded by now, but, Robin's was still vibrant, and she's like, look at that. I said, and that was the winner.
Well, don't get
it
me
was
wrong, I'm not
amazing.
disparaging the value of the chalk art contest. I'm just use that as an example that the recovery on that is gonna be different from the recovery on
Right, and I
things
think,
like the egg hunt contest.
I think it just surprised all of us.
Well, I will say I'm defending the chalk art contest. I feel like if you personally. I feel like.
Can we get rid of the chalk art contest?
Kyle?
It's on the cover.
And your daughter's on the cover.
I went straight to I jumped right in.
We're ready to work.
Yes, for this particular event, since we're discussing it, I will say the cool thing that as a participant, you get hundreds of people walking by going, what is this thing that you're doing? What's going on? Oh, it's Park and Rec. They're doing a chalk art contest. So you get the word of mouth into hundreds of people that are walking by. I think, honestly, that we can capitalize on that a little bit more for marketing, and put, I mean, we have the booth and we have information out there, but I mean, there could be
And
more.
just tell them, they walk by and ask questions, hey, for $5, I'll give you 2 pieces of chalk and you can pick out a spot on the thing.
They can,
Yeah,
they
there you
can
go.
sign up right there, and I think the cost recovery for that, if you actually looked at it, is probably pretty good, because it's really just chalk, and then.
And there's a lot of grain,
Yes, so, anyway.
We give them chalk and we
You'll get to get rid of that one.
we just teach them how to draw the logo.
Up and down, that's what we should do. We should have a chalk art logo company.
But you realize on the front, that's also his wife, that's Robin.
Yeah, we are
That's our
aware.
mayor.
We know, yeah.
I know, but it was, well, where was I?
And
I was the judge.
does Natalia get to be a princess if I'm the president, like, or is she?
We'll make sure you're on the next.
No.
Point of order, Mr. Chairperson.
I noticed-
The budget committee members asked for more representation.
I'm so sorry. That's so funny.
Okay,
I want no attention.
Sorry, I took up way too much time on that section.
All right. Have we ventilated special
Okay,
events?
yes.
All right.
Oh, my goodness.
Now the zombie budgets,
I
right?
do all of them, so, you know.
Thankfully, there is no chalk art.
I
I think we'd get in trouble if we had chalk on the field.
yes.
Extra chalk.
I can take this one if you want.
Hey, sweet.
Give you a break. Yeah, so, new budget, you'll see, if you turn 2 pages from here on page 40, you'll see the old Broadway field fund. This has, you'll see the partnership revenues on line 11, that's the result of our new agreement with the school district. There's gonna be increases, built into that agreement for the duration of that contract, but that's where it starts. For this next fiscal year, you'll also see some revenues from concession sales. I think we received 25% of concession sale revenue for events at Broadway Field because we're the ones that keep the concession stand operational. We obtain the licensing and permits that are required, and as Darren knows, it's usually us that's working with those vendors, PTO groups, parent groups of some sort to make sure they have access to that space. So it's important for us to recoup some of those expenses. You'll see some of the personnel services. I'm pleased to say that actually just a couple weeks ago we hired somebody specifically for Broadway Field. That's a position that we've really struggled to fulfill over the last few years. and it's required our full-time maintenance staff to spend more time out there maintaining the field. The field is also brand new, which means that there's less maintenance. The turf, the technology of turf has improved to the point that we need to drag the field and groom it less than we had previously, the previous field, so that's nice. Basic expenses under materials and services. I don't want to speak too much of it unless you need more information, but yeah, generally speaking, a healthy Broadway field budget. I think there is some unknowns about how the construction project will impact revenue and expenses moving forward, but we have a softball field that's maybe 10% of the way done and a batting cage facility that's 4 feet up from the ground, so we're just not quite sure how that's all going to work once it's laid out and operational, hopefully in late fall. We do know that there'll be more programming opportunity for us and for rental revenue on those fields moving forward.
So why is there such a drop in your anticipated rental fees is so much lower than what you budgeted last year, prior year?
Let's see here. Sorry, Bill, I'm just going to cross-reference. Rental deposit, is that no rental fees? We have 5,000 budgeted.
In prior years, they were higher.
Yeah, I think what, like Skylar said, with where it's at right now, is being offline for us, going into the summer season. July, August, were kind of those bigger rental opportunities for us, because the weather's great, but school sports isn't using the field as much, so that's kind of our prime.
So it's down.
So it's down, yeah. So we're gonna be down, you know, who knows, how quickly they're gonna be able to get the softball side of it done, so we're like, when we're gonna be able to let.
But 25, 26 up jump.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I think that covers it for me. Yeah, I'll keep going. Yeah, why not?
Go ahead.
I gotta find my second wind here, otherwise I might keel over. Yeah, we'll see, building rental. I'm pleased to share, our board knows this, but we did have a 2-year agreement with another government agency, but that ended in July or August of this fiscal year that we're in currently, 2023. But we recently signed and agreed to terms with a new leasee, so they have already begun that moving in process, and that's rental revenue that is much appreciated. And they're a really great partner of ours, Consejo Espanol. They work with the Latinx community here in Clatsop County, and have some really great programs and services that they're bringing to South County that hasn't necessarily been able to be down here before. They've mostly been up in Astoria previously. We are expecting our wonderful Director of Development to find some money to help us with expenses at the SRC and capital improvements specifically. And I know he's already applied for lots of things, but some of them take months and months for them to get back to us. So we'll expect that he hits every penny of that line or more.
Yeah, I like more. More is better.
You are related to Zoe, so.
Yeah.
True enough.
It kind of permeates through the house.
Yeah.
So these are grants to help us with like the occupancy and
So yeah, we
licensing.
Other bigger, some of the bigger projects that we're looking at too, some mechanical systems and things like that. So, yeah, we're looking for some higher dollar.
So is he tracking this year for 150?
yes.
All right.
So,
Well,
on line 50.
He's working on it.
Okay.
We only gave him a 9-month delay in starting. He kind of started after the race. Was already mostly
He must
done.
be good.
I was curious on line 51, the cost recovery, is that an underestimate just because there are several unknowns and we think it might be
Yeah, I think this one, it would be hard probably for us to recover 100% of the cost right now because the expenses of the building are such that we would need to have more programs generate revenue, and those program fees are gonna be found in another budget. So this is one where I don't know if we'll ever get to 100% because, like, yeah, the programs aren't in here. But what is in here is grants and donations and building rental, and that's that big chunk of 162,000.
That's why it was really hard having it in a separate fund too, because like youth programs uses it, and it's over here in its own fund, and we were having to offset it by pulling so much money to on one of these.
This budget reflects a lot of physical plant improvements. So,
And you'll see one thing that I think is important to call out. We knew this when we purchased the building. In fact, we knew it before because the board invested a good amount of resources in exploration of the current state of the old middle school. But it's a pretty expensive building to operate in terms of its building efficiencies, and that's partly because there's parts of the building, good part of the building that's 70 years old, and other parts of the building that are pretty old and just don't operate very efficiently. If you were, again, if you were starting a building, you would not design it to look like a giant figure eight with 3 different eras of construction and all those types of things that are present in that building. So you'll see, that's why it's really important, I think, for us to capitalize on some of these grants to improve the efficiency of the building. In the winter months, we'll see our heating bill rise pretty substantially, so it's just something that we're working on. You all know that when you buy a fixer-upper house, it doesn't run very well for a long time. If you buy a brand new house, hopefully that's a lot more efficient for your utility bills.
So you're showing a decrease in gas and electric this year?
A little bit. We budgeted a little higher than we thought, just because a little while, I mean, they've been kind of toying with the best way to keep everything going. We've gone to more energy efficient for light bulbs, all that. For electricity, that's dropped. The gas was trying to make sure we knew which parts were the older radiators that we had to figure out how to shut off manually, and there were just a lot of those parts that they've really
They've done some work on the boiler that increased its efficiency, new gasket seals, some kind of maintenance on it. So we've seen some efficiencies over the past couple of years. I think we also as a team got a little better handle on now we can see, like almost 4 years of data on what those gas bills look like too. So, yeah.
It's really about insulation, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The buildings just.
figuring out how early, well, and it's like, how early do you go in, turn it on to keep the kids warm to a certain point? Instead of, hey, do we just keep it on all day and call it good? And they've really nailed that kind of down.
Well, if the kids are shivering, that'll generate.
Just make them run around the classroom and then the teachers.
Their metabolism.
Then we have to review the youth program budget and see how many more teachers we have to keep rotating through.
It's really like a trip.
Here's a code for you.
Just put a puppy in there with the kids and they'll play till they warm up.
So again, why don't you have a repair and maintenance budget?
It's under, maintenance. It's under the maintenance department now. We did have one before, but it was only because we couldn't take from the general fund over there.
So where does that, so line 23 move to something else?
Yeah, move to the maintenance department.
Yeah.
Oh, maintenance department?
Yeah, it's under the maintenance budget now.
Okay.
Too bad we didn't budget more for lottery tickets.
32. Line 19.
All right, so that's the end of the departmental budget?
Yes.
All right.
There is, the capital improvement fund, so there's 2 pages to page 42.
And, we do need to make a correction on this one, because this is one we kind of ignored. We're removing the 50,000, putting 25,000, which was budgeted on the first page, and then that's gonna affect that down.
So what, we're moving line 4?
Line 4 is gonna actually be 25,000.
25.
Yeah, that's what we had budgeted on the general page, and I caught this after Darren had printed out your single one.
42, line.
Shocker.
That was too efficient.
And I was like, hey, did you start? And you're like, I'm done. Never mind, I didn't see anything. 28,346, yeah. Nothing else.
And we have no project expenses this year?
No, not this year.
Yeah, nothing that's called out under the capital improvement fund, but we do have some back in, like SRC, I think there's $15,000 capital improvement to fix a heating system. And then, yeah, the pool, the residing of the pool.
So the 250, that's gonna be the field, or not quite 250, we're paying that one out from this year, that's why that was budgeted so high,
So it's
because we knew that project.
April, and this budget will last, we'll predict out to June of 2025, so it's 15 months out from any potential capital expenses. I mean, my preference would be to move some of this ending fund balance into contingency. The numbers stay the same, it doesn't affect the budget, but give yourself a capital fund contingency of, I don't know, 25 grand, so.
So move, I see what you're saying. Not the ending fund balance in the overall budget, but in this fund.
Just in the capital improvement fund.
Oh, to line 42.
Just in case you have.
Sorry, Kyle, did you mean
something
did you mean to line 42 though? Is that what
Well,
you're talking about?
change line 46 to 20,000 and put line 42,
Yeah.
33, 340, or something like that. I mean, you guys.
Well, sorry, hang on, because these lines, when we moved,
So it'd be 28,000.
yeah, all of those lines that say 53,346, those all should say 28,346. Because those will all get adjusted with the change that Chris shared.
Oh, because you reduced
We-
line
yeah, so
4.
the others-
Okay, so maybe you don't have enough money.
Well, to your point though, I mean, we could say, let's put half of that or some amount in contingency.
But if it's too small of a number, it's really not capital at that
You
point.
know, the bulk of this was to build this up so that we can do more of our capital projects, when we're not in more of an operating year. We do have the capital that we're doing, the aquatics capital and maintenance, capital, the SRC capital that are in those funds already. We're kind of like, if we didn't have like we started this year with that 94,000, I mean, that would have, if we didn't have that, that would have been a big hit for that
Right.
field
Yeah,
repair.
yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, our goal is to make sure we're prepared when we're going to be out of the operating one and more into that growth one again.
Okay.
So, okay, I have a question, and I'm trying to phrase it correctly. Remember when we had our meeting just, recently? We were looking for $30,000?
That's not a capital project, though.
No, but it's money that we're looking to spend.
It's
Where is
already,
that?
it's budgeted and admin under contract services. Because that's a
Okay,
contract.
so we found
It's in there.
the money?
We've allocated
Allocated.
the money for next fiscal
We didn't find it, I didn't.
We may be able to start the project
Proposed.
sooner than that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's under the.
We didn't have that, that allocation. We don't have that excess in our funds for this year,
Right.
so.
So it is under admin services line.
And,
So it's actually in here?
it is,
Yeah,
under
line
admin,
34.
under contract services.
Line 34 on page 31. Page 31, line 34. It's built into that.
Nice work, you guys.
Okay.
Nice work.
Yeah, I think we're presenting it as a team effort, but really, the work of the budget has fallen to Chris and Darren, and it's great, and I appreciate it, and, it's taken a big load off of my shoulders, and, I think our plan in this transition year from the organizational structure that we had previously to our new organizational structure is that Chris will do all of I mean, he'll have support. But Darren will be fully devoted to his development duties. This was Darren's kind of last hurrah as a member of the finance team, and he'll still bring a lot of expertise, and we'll be calling on him for questions and things like that. But if I had to guess, Chris and Darren have probably, 100 to 150 hours each on budget preparations and meetings and review, and I know they've worked on it. And to their credit, we kept kind of searching for more things to trim that didn't need to be there, or more money under some rock that we hadn't lifted up, and I think we've exhausted all of those opportunities. And again, we're presenting what I think is a really healthy budget, but it's an operational budget, and not necessarily we're taking on 3 or 4 substantial capital projects. Even though we'd really like to be able to, and the SRC and the pool both have some capital improvements that we will need to invest in the future. This budget will help us get to that point in a little healthier fashion. Staying within our means.
All right, so I've noted 2 potential, changes. Potentially increasing the amount of COLA and merit increases from 3% to some other percentage. And then potentially increasing the budget for staff retention recognition and whatever it is now to some other amount to help retain full employees or others. So are those, as a budget committee, is that the direction that we want to give to the team to work on and come back to us on?
Well, if we propose a change, does it have to come back to us?
It doesn't. No, I mean, you can do all of your stuff here. What we probably won't be able to calculate is how those numbers impact the overall budget to carry forward and things like that. But you guys are smart, you can do most of that math probably.
So
We've already done it.
I would propose on page 31, administration, we increase line 36 to $40,000 and reduce the ending fund balance by the same amount.
Say that again, we were also turning to page 31.
Change this number from 10 to 40. And that you can use for COLA, you can use for employee retention, or
we wouldn't be able to use it for COLA though.
Why? Why is that not employee retention?
Well, it is, but the COLA would have to go under salary, so it would just go in a different line. But we could figure out a creative way to distribute those funds. I think that's probably up to the purview.
Yeah, and that's why I asked before if we needed a new separate line, because I want management to have the maximum flexibility to use it however they want.
Sure.
It's just, I have to work within the software restrictions too.
And the state law.
Yeah, state law's even bigger, but that's what I'm just I'm there's certain, I can't just build a line and be like, we're just gonna shoot it all out.
So you can't have a line that just says contingency.
Contingency is gonna be different than saying, okay, we have a line and I can take this much out and give this person a COLA though. That's where things kind of get a little murky in there and.
Well, we want to give the maximum flexibility. Oh, at least that would be my proposal, to give management the maximum flexibility to, whether it's employee raises or some other way.
I think this is one way to do it. We can be creative and look at a retention bonus or a recognition bonus of some sort. I think that, to me, would be more flexible and easy for us to work with, rather than saying increasing the COLA to a different percent, because that's going to affect that, every budget hit down.
Well, and I don't want to box management in by putting a COLA percent in there, because then employees will have the expectation that that's going to be their raise. And
right, that's
that
why
may
we
or
want
may
to
not
go more
be
towards the merit.
True. So
you can go fluctuate that.
So I mean, Celeste, am I capturing your concerns as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that gives you, I like that proposal. I think one of the questions that I have is do Chris or Darren, do you feel like we're fairly on target from the adopted column for 23, 24? Are we fairly on target? I unfortunately don't have all my packets here at my location right now, but are we fairly on target?
Yeah. We fall a little, I'm sorry, we fall a little short in a couple places, which you guys are already aware of as a board. You know, where the sale of our property from the SRC didn't come in at quite the number we wanted to see. So we were a little short there, but a lot of our revenues have come in higher than we thought that they would. So we're pretty close to being on target. So you know, when we reviewed the summary of the general fund sheet on page 30, you know, we really tried to come up with the most educated guess as to what that net working capital is actually going to be for that we're proposing for this year. And so yeah, I think we're going to be really pretty spot on with that.
So $40,000 doesn't sound like it's going to infringe too much on the bottom line.
Right. Yeah.
But does then provide you all some flexibility to incentivize, you know, to do merit pay or whatever you decide is best.
To take, like,
I mean, it just doesn't like 30,000 has that much of an impact on the financials, but could have a fairly strong impact on staff.
okay.
Yeah. I think maybe it should be noted for us, since this is a public meeting, that the budget committee is all right with us utilizing those funds on the timing that best works for the district budget, because part of what we're trying to do is have a budget that's capable of getting us to the point where our tax revenue flows in. And if we utilize 30,000 of this $40,000 on July 1, then we're potentially impacting that in a way that's doesn't seem wise to me, I guess.
We're just appropriating it though,
Sure.
right?
So I just want to make sure that the budget committee
Right.
knows that that money's not going to employees, you know, in July.
In July.
Potentially.
Right.
Yeah. It could happen later, it could
Right.
happen on, maybe we're going to develop a program, yeah.
Okay, because we didn't want anyone to look at, like, maybe you guys go and look at the board financials and then you see, wow, they haven't spent any of that we had allocated the first month or two.
Yeah.
We just don't want to have somebody think,
Right.
oh, wow, they didn't do
Well,
anything.
is it enough I mean, I've expressed my opinion or wishes, but the rest of the board hasn't. But is that enough direction to the board to say, add 40 grand to employees and take it out of any fund balance, figure out the line items that you need to change?
I think it's clear enough
Yeah.
for us.
Actually, it's not add 40, it's change.
Just change it from 10,500 to 40,000.
So that with that direction, are we ready to endorse the rest of it?
Well, I have some questions before we do go forward. And you guys put a lot of work into this, and I thank you. I mean, thank you's not enough for all the blood, sweat, and tears and the time you've given. But I want to look at the appendices just to be sure that there's not any detail that we're missing. You know, on page 44, 45, and 46, and, you know, ending on. I'm just curious, especially about the insurance, that we've looked at that and taken into concern before we give more money someplace else. That we're okay, you know, with whatever this projection really truly turns in to be, that's budgeted. And I would expect so, but I want us not to ignore that you put this in here.
Yeah. 44 is just the basic sheet that we give every year, just showing how the
Right.
taxes are calculated. We take the
95%.
of the recovery rate, that's, put on the general sheet.
I know that's just a worksheet, but
Yeah.
up there on the title of this, shouldn't it say Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District rather than Center?
Yeah, it said that forever, and I'm not sure why.
That's, yeah,
It's
for
just
whatever
the-
reason,
the
that's
tax-
what our taxing name is
That's what they
by
want
the
it to
county.
What is
So,
it?
Sunset Empire Park and Recreation Center.
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 It's been that way
Yeah.
for years and years. It's just what they call it.
Probably takes a congressional act to.
Exactly. Yeah, as long as we get the money, I'm like, you can call me whatever. They send it to us and I accept it. And then 45 was the personnel breakdown. But yeah, Sue, you're at 46 is kind of that, this is the message that we all have received showing us, and we did take that into consideration when we built the insurances. So that was part of that one. But it's just more of a transparency so that everyone that isn't included in the SDAO email can review that same letter that everybody's received.
So my recollection is fuzzy, but did we not receive more taxes than we budgeted for this year?
We
But
did.
it was like 20, 30,000, right?
And some of that though, remember, was timber, and we shot higher this year on timber.
And you booked it all as
'Cause-
taxes received.
Well, on the sheet that you guys get for the end of for the board financials, it brings taxes together, or you'd have a list of, I think that board financial review packet would be like 10 pages long with every single
Yeah.
GL code, so it rolls it up, but, so when you see it, it just says taxes, but yeah, that includes timber taxes.
I'm looking at this, so this
Right,
shows.
but that's why that tax line.
Last year,
Yeah.
they imposed 2,030,000 roughly.
Yeah.
And then this year, what are we going to impose in taxes?
It is it's on the general sheet.
Well, that's what we're going to receive. But we have to levy the tax, and I'm just wondering how much we're levying and how much we're not receiving because we're not actually paying tax.
Yeah.
It's just a blanket levy of .9280.
Yeah.
That's your tax rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the dollars per thousand.
Right, but I think that's what you guys, in your board meeting will enact. It's just that all of this is, it's the Form LD 50 and everything is counted out.
Right, so last year, we imposed 2 million and change in taxes. And my question is, for the constituents, what are we going to impose in taxes this year?
Isn't it that number?
Yeah.
On, page 30, line 26, in the last column, the blue?
That's how much we're receiving.
30.
How much we project to receive.
So
Well,
it'd be that.
that's not what you imposed.
It'd be that
that's what
number plus, what did you say,
Divided
5%?
Probably 5%.
Yeah,
What,
so this
that's
is
right.
Yeah.
So,
because we're working off the year before for the posting, right?
Yeah, we're 1 year
No, but that's-
of lag
Right, so that would be line 28 on that table
on
4A.
page 44.
Yeah, it's, line 28 is district taxes imposed.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what we're imposing.
So that's what we imposed last year. So then, for budgeting purposes, we're going to impose last year's taxes as confirmed by the
Yeah.
county.
Yeah, because
And
that's
then
when
that
we had
gives us
called
enough
them.
wiggle room to.
Yeah, because we had called them to figure out, we're like, is this the sheet that we use? And that they confirmed, use the prior years, the 20. So that's why we're using 23, 24 to impose.
Okay.
We had a different one.
5 to 7%.
Yeah.
5
5 to 7%.
What we don't collect.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we did. That's what we did to get to the
So page 44
1,927,000.
shows up on page 30 in what line,
So,
please?
so that's to be received,
Okay,
but it doesn't, sorry, so it doesn't show it exactly like that.
right.
It's line 39 times .95,
Oh,
which is
got it.
on
Line 39
26.
of what page?
Of 44, line 44.
Okay.
You take that 2,029,329.71, multiply that by .95, because that's your rate that
Non-collection
you,
rate.
exactly.
Okay.
And then that's how you get the, line 26 of 1,927,864. There we go.
Okay, anything else?
There we go.
Since I missed this part, did we note that, the board secretary is Sue?
Yeah, so like, and I'm not position one either.
Okay, just checking. I figured Sue would find it.
We noted that before the meeting even started, yeah.
Yeah. Because notice the year you expire,
She walked in like a,
last year.
I'm not running
You're
yet.
not here.
So, Mr. Chair, are you waiting for a motion?
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's nothing else, how about a little, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget with the modification we discussed. Is there any seconds?
Second.
Excellent.
sorry,
You got one more?
we have to allow for public comment.
Oh,
I just want to make sure that there's nobody in the Zoom room
okay.
for public comment, and I don't think there's anybody here. It may
Good call,
be
Sam.
just a formality, but, yeah.
What are you doing, Paul?
All right, you want to open and close public comment? It appears that there's no one here for that.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Open public comment, there's nobody in the room, nobody on Zoom.
I did.
Nope.
No?
You better not.
You better not.
I'll go home and say.
All right, public comment closed. All right, so with that, we'll now entertain the motion to approve the budget as modified.
I'll make the motion.
All right, so all those in favor of approving the budget, making the change on page 31, line 36, from 10,500 to 40,000, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The vote appears to be unanimous.
Budget approved. In 1 minute.
Before 9 o'clock.
Oh, my
I
God.
I was planning on having ice cream and Diet Coke at the next meeting, so.
There's a couple different reasons.
Diet, hey, wait a minute, Diet Coke, let's go, what were we thinking about here?
So.
Well, what kind of ice cream?
5%.
Cantaloupe.
Then there's.
Yeah, you missed, Kyle's favorite ice cream is cantaloupe.
Yes, that is also very good.
Because you can take.
Oh, you
that
have
out.
cantaloupe?
I have.
Awesome.
I've made it.
Is that the
Oh
best?
my
ever?
gosh, this is
This
sounding
is
incredible.
I'm
So
dying.
then there's a system to,
But you can't buy it.
urban
You have to
renewal
pay.
does is.
Apparently you can take it and bring your own, give them any fruit.
Yeah.
Make ice cream.
Yeah, a lot of places.
Very confusing.
Do I need to formally adjourn this
Next
meeting?
year.
All right.
$1.1 million, and
All right.
whoever you're renewing.
This meeting's adjourned.
All right, good.